The revenge of By the Numbers is brought to you by Esports Bet, where you can currently go and enter their free-to-enter World's Prediction Series 2 competition, where it is a 10 million USDT prize pool. It has 300,000 USDT for first place. And if you go to their Discord, discord.gg/esportsbet, they will give you 50,000 DJT to get started in this competition. And in it, you can bet on the Major, the Blast Showdown. You can bet on League of Legends Worlds, Dota TI, any other tournaments out there in the scene, FIFA, Valorant, if there is anything, Rainbow Six, all the competitions out there you can imagine, ESL Impact, everything. And basically, however good you are at predicting, the ones who are really good and the ones who make it through and are able to use that DJT correctly, they have a chance to win enormous prizes.
Chris is not still in the picture. Oh, still very much in the round. Oh, Chris, he's found 3. It's down to a 2-on-2. Chris, can he close this with an ace? Oh my God!
He gives him a chance at least, and this CZ kill could be everything. Finally, Zeus, he does something!
Looking for a second, he connects it. Oh, and he gets a third as well. Surely he's not going to pull this off. Oh, Caldera, the man, the myth, the beast.
Zywoo, no help really, but he's still hitting shots. He's already got 3, 4, and 5. And oh my God, Zywoo! Unbelievable!
Hey up, everybody. Welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. It is another week of Counter-Strike news that we're about to rip into, and there's been a bunch of it that's already come out, and a massive day today when we're recording this because the news is out. We can finally stop with the speculation. We can finally stop with everybody every week. Jackson getting the clicks on the website. Unfortunately, they're going to have to find something else to do now because they're not going to be able to keep milking this cow. But Device is home in Denmark, in Astralis. He has found his home. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a bunch of other stuff too. But first, Thorin, how you doing, dude? You good?
Yeah, pretty good in general.
Pretty good in general. Sweet.
Almost about to have a CSGO major. I'm
there
looking forward to it.
Finally, right? It is weird how we're so accustomed to there just being constant CS now with that. Like you go through the whole RMR process. You know, it takes days and days, and it's just constant all day matches, day and night, and then it goes away, and all of a sudden it just feels like you're in the doldrums. You're in the middle of the ocean.
Makes me
There's
appreciate
no wind
the events
blowing.
more, mate. Because you know, back in the day, even when it wasn't a tier 1 event, there'd be like 3 tier 2 events going on, wouldn't there? So you never felt like if anything, if you and me, you had to like intentionally take a break and be like, I'm not going to watch this weekend. Maybe I'll watch like the final or something. Now I actually feel like it gets me revved up for every big event because there's only like fucking 8 in a year or something in there.
Actually, I don't. This didn't even occur to me at this point, but it's like because of that feeling, is this actually the promised land as far as ESL are concerned, right? That monopoly side of things where you start building up, you know, because now there are breaks between tournaments. There aren't the tier 2 or 3 tournaments really anymore, you know, that are going on between ESL events and Blast events. When there is a break, there is a break. And so now you can have a little bit of time to build up, you know, to get that appetite going again for
Here's
the
the
tier
bad
1
news,
CS.
though. This is why you don't listen to pro players and teams because they will always tell you that, look, mate, they're like a certain demographic of society, very carefully phrased there. They will tell you what they want, but they don't know what they want. So when you give them what they wanted, Semmler, what they say they wanted, they then go, but I don't like this either. And it's like, bloody hell, oh, wait, so I was supposed to read your mind. By the way, yes, you are literally supposed to be the one who takes charge, reads their mind and gives them what they might want. And then that actually might make it work. Because think about this, right? Astralis is the ultimate team. Remember, Astralis is the team, Semmler, that 1 year, 2017, skipped ESL Cologne because the major was like a few weeks later. Do you remember that? That was the one that was won by SK Gaming over Cloud9 in the final. Astralis skipped that because they thought too many events, too many tier 1 events. Then they had that whole thing in 2019, right? Obviously, you know, we're only going to Blasts because Device can only travel like 3 time zones to the left, but not to the right. Like, remember that whole fucking argument they spun up? Well, what do you know, Semmler? Now Astralis, and then they won all those tournaments at the end of 2019 when they went back grinding. Too many tournaments were all burned out. We need time off in 2020. So now think about this, guys. We're in 2022. Device is back in Astralis. And what's the complaint? They're probably not going to play till next year Because there's no more tournaments. Because they're not in the major and they're not at Blast finals. Well done, guys. Well done. You all got what you said you wanted. You all got exactly what you begged us for. What you demanded, what you said literally was like a moral imperative because of burnout. We gave you it, and what do you know? Oh, it turns out that only works as a complaint when you're number one, when you're winning everything, when you're always in the finals. Like, this is why, dude, you can't listen to those people. Like, you can take on board their opinion, but the point is they don't know what they want. They don't actually, essentially, if they were given it like now, they're just going to complain. So that's why, to me, the real response was actually that teams, I mean, this was Flashpoint essentially, nutted up and actually themselves took part in the negotiation process and had some system where it's like, we attend so many events, but we don't have to attend them all. If you don't know, get fans, the idea of like, when we keep saying like functional monopoly, it's just a monopoly from ESL. The joke is, I always use this analogy. ESL right now is Microsoft in the 90s, where there's a famous story where they intentionally bought or paid for part of the stock of Apple just so that for the antitrust lawsuits, it didn't look like they had 100% market value. They had to be like, no, we only have 89% market value. They had to do that.
There's this guy, Steve Jobs. He's doing something right now. You guys pay attention to him.
That's basically ESL now, but with Blast, they're like, no, we allow Blast, a little seat at the table and a few scraps. And so what happens is, if you don't know ESL, this has been their wet dream the whole time. Their dream always was, one, cut costs and have some events online. And then two, because now you can obviously have qualifiers and that now. And then two, this was the ultimate dream always, was make the circuit so that you are locked in and you have to play all the ESL events. You can't ever choose an event to skip, because then how can I make my event in the stadium? And how can I know these fans will be there? And how can I know that like you'll have to compete at a event that's not that good? Now they've made the whole circuit like challenger things, go into the Pro League, and it's like, mate, this is their wet dream. To a fan, you might be like, oh, I'd maybe like a bit more CS. ESL wouldn't. They want it exactly like it is now. And by the way, you know what I just said there? That should sound like a really negative if you're someone like ESL. No. The dream for ESL is, if you don't go to their event, well, now you have to go to every event afterwards. And spoiler, there's nowhere else for you to go. There's no other game in town. You're not going to another tournament during the major. Like, you just shower luck, mate. You have to sit back and go, please, can I play ESL? And then, that's like, this is actually their dream. This is a feature, not a bug.
Blast events and all other events now. The esports tournaments is also a qualifier into Katowice. So everything feeds into ESL now. You don't exist in the eco space without ESL say so. So it really is the dream. And for a period there, I was being a bit cynical in the sense that I was saying, why don't they just buy it all? Why don't the Saudis just go to Blast? Same thing, and just be like, right, you're the last big player in this space in Counter-Strike. Why don't we just go ahead and give you maybe like a cool 200 million or something? I don't know, like whatever Blast is worth. Who knows? It's like they're hemorrhaging money, so who knows what they're worth at the end of the day? Much like ESL, but you get them on board, and then you really do have the monopoly. But now I think I kind of have come around onto the Gates jobs kind of angle where you just keep allowing Blast to exist, because Blast, the one thing that Blast have had going for them for years now, and that has put them above the rest, is innovation in terms of their production. ESL are not innovators. ESL take what others do. And so for years now, it's been Blast innovating with the broadcast, improving the graphics and creating fun stuff to do during breaks, during ad breaks to keep people engaged, messing around with the players, asking questions, like doing all that sort of stuff, creating more creative ways to keep people engaged in the stream. That's all been Blast. And ESL haven't had to come up with any of it. I mean, Flashpoint, the skits, it's like we were doing the skits and then ESL started doing the skits. It's like ESL cannot, one industry veteran actually, from years ago, that just reminded me, from years ago, one industry vet used to just say it's ESL gray. That they are just going to be for them, the ideal world, the ideal situation is to just have a conveyor belt, and it's all nice and organized and German and clean, and everything is boxed up and ready to go, and it just ships on down, and you can get it all on a nice conveyor belt, and you can get it all moving down, and it's all fine and dandy.
So you mean ESL is like that Tolkien quote, like, evil can never create its own. It's going to
but that's exactly it.
So good.
Like, it must parasitize. Okay. That is the way.
Blast are like the fucking elves, and then ESL is like fucking
knocking on ESL. Like, the thing is, it's not just knocking on ESL. It's been very apparent from day one that this has been ESL strategy all along. It took them 10 years, but they won. They got there. They got to the goal. The goal has always been a monopoly, and now they've managed to achieve it. Eventually they had to make some plays to do it. Never saw Faceit. I never saw Faceit joining ESL. That one caught me completely off guard.
Here's the thing, I'll give you an angle from this show as to why that doesn't actually surprise me as much as you think. Okay. Because here's the thing. A little detail a lot of people don't know back in the day is you you remember I think it was 2015, where there was that famous like a coup attempt by ESL where they were going to do a circuit like this that would dominate the whole thing and be exclusive. And what happened was they famously, Richard always said, planned the actual meeting so that it was like the one weekend when like Valve employees were on holiday and were on like some beach somewhere. And what they did is have this meeting, and they had all fuckers there like TSM and all the orgs that were going to be in part of this league. And famously, FACEIT were the ones who rallied all the other orgs. Remember, they got like DreamHack who hadn't been bought yet, and they got all these orgs together and like, look, we have to like basically what we have to do is pitch like a rival circuit, and we have to now here's what Richard always said. I can't remember if it's on the show or not, but he always said, I think the main reason they did that is because FACEIT wasn't included in the ESL thing. If they'd actually, if like Sauron had sort of gone, hey, Saruman, you want in a bit, FACEIT would have gone like, thanks, yeah, this is the real way that the scene has to, they would have just been the ringleader. So that's and I'll also say this, here's the real dark angle. If you're someone thinking like, yeah, why doesn't Blast just sell to the Saudis? Guys, I think there's a reason the Saudis might be really fucking pissed off with Blast, because when they tried to do a business deal with Blast, what happened? Every single person in this chat and all the fucking talent were like, you're evil, fuck ever working with you guys. You bought in, yeah, I'm just going to work with your rival now. Like, the joke is we've actually all helped Blast just shoot their own feet with a shotgun, and then we're all sitting back going, you know what, in the end, ESL kind of got a monopoly. Like, yeah, we did it. We gave them a monopoly. We basically sold them Park Place at like rock bottom prices. So I even used the American version of fucking Monopoly for you there, Semmler. The references, because obviously in England it's fucking London in it, so whatever.
But nobody plays the English over. Come on. Well, London, actually, you're right.
Remember that was the other thing. I did it on the show, obviously. Remember when they unironically made an ESL version of Monopoly? Yes. But the joke is, and this plays right into what you were saying. This plays right into what you're saying. I thought when they made it, it would at least either have a tie into players and teams. So it would be, Simple Street, and that would be like the best. No, they didn't have any licensing rights. They had nothing. Or it would at least be funny, right? Like it would be like, go to jail, like Thorin banned from kind of. That would be funny. No, because it's ESL. It was just a shit version of normal Monopoly. Like it's like you say, ESL grey. Like the real problem people like ESL have is they sit around in a boardroom like, is there any way we could remove all color from the world so that then we didn't seem boring? That's their way. Instead of going like, why not make all things exciting and vibrant? They're like, is there a way to turn the contrast down on the world though? They're mad, aren't they? They're so mad. Because the problem is, this as well, Semmler. When I was young, I grew up all brainwashed by TV and cultural norms and things my teachers told me at school. And I used to believe that thing, don't ever say stereotypes. Stereotypes are bigoted. No, what stereotypes are is called pattern recognition. Yeah, and they will absolutely save your motherfucking life in certain scenarios with animals, etc., for example. But what I learned about people was, the more I traveled the world, I was like, holy shit, what are the odds that there'd be a guy at Spanish exactly like that narrative? And then the worst one of all, guys, I'm just going to say it right now, the most ridiculously bang on is all the Germans. It goes without saying. Like, they are absolutely what every, like, caricatures of them is in the fucking West, mate. It's mental, innit? Like, they really are the people. Like, you just take the train and then it's on the, everyone knows that. Like, on the S-Strand, like, what are you talking about? I'm not from Germany, am I? Like, but everyone knows about the U-Bahn. Like, whatever, mate. They're so ridiculous. They're so ridiculous, guys. They're so ridiculous. But the thing is, they are the easiest one to flip the switch to comedy and just enjoy it and just go. You're. But
that's it. That is it. They made play after play. That they were the ones who really figured it out, in that you just cater to the players. Because remember, once upon a time, ESL were despised by the community. Everybody hated ESL.
Everybody shit talked all the time.
Everybody was fans of everybody else. Everybody else under the sun. But ESL, everybody despised ESL. Everybody hated them, the whole community. And then ESL figured out what they needed to do. It was to get on the good side of the players. You don't try to care about the teams. You don't try to care about anybody else. You get on the good side of the players, because the community follows the players. No matter what the players say, it's gospel. The community will eat it up. Just eat it up every time. And once ESL figured that out, then all they did, every tournament, all they cared about was making sure that the players had a perfect experience. Because then the players go out and say, oh, ESL, fantastic, best tournament organizer ever. And then all the community is like, oh, well, clearly, yes. Oh, they must be the best tournament ever. And from there you go. They just slowly, over the years, built it back up again. And now, well, here we are. Such is life. Sitting at the top of the pack. I mean, that is actually one of the things that, we can talk about this now, because also there was the Rio talent announcement that was put out, and there's a bunch of talk about there as well. But as in relation to like Blast and ESL, Blast really are there. The only thing they can do now to stand out is to innovate on the broadcast. Literally, like just I don't even know now to come up with ads, clever ad segments. You can't really do too much now with the UI. That's pretty solid. That's pretty set in stone. It feels like they're doing a good job. I mean, I know that they're trying to look at it. You got Nico the Pops who's out there tweeting, like, oh, do you look at the mini map when you watch and all that? Like, so they're clearly trying to think of ways to improve the production because that's literally the only thing they have now. If we look at this Rio talent announcement, they no longer have any talent exclusivity. Because Freya works with Faceit, and so Faceit ESL now. So there you go. Freya's in with ESL now. There's no longer that war between Faceit and ESL where they're not hiring each other's talent. Now Freya, she's going to be front and center at ESL events from here on out. And then now you have Launders and Scrawny, who are also going to be at all of these major events, it looks like. So for the next 2 majors, you're going to have Launders and Scrawny at the ESL one, and then obviously they're going to be at the Paris one because that's Blast major, and they are Blast casters. But you could say that before, where they are Blast casters. Now they're just casters. They're going to ESL events now. So as far when I was talking about it this morning on my stream, where I was like, I don't know what Blast have now to differentiate themselves from ESL because they don't have exclusive casters anymore. Their casters are going to work with ESL. They don't have exclusive teams. Their teams are playing in ESL in Louvre agreement. So you have a format that's pretty much similar to ESL in that it's going to drag out for weeks at a time, and you're going to try and just do the best you can to draw it out. So you have a similar format to ESL as well in your tournament. So I really don't know, barring huge technical innovation on the stream itself, like what you're going to do if you're Blast to stand out now. You really are just going to be just the little stepchild that ESL allows to exist so that it has somebody to bounce to take innovation from. And then to just be able to not, say that they're not a monopoly. Like that's literally the only reason.
Bearing in mind, Blast, at least previously, used to run like real double elim and all that sort of stuff. I actually think Blast's in an even worse spot now, Semmler, because the way they've divided up the season, so you play the group stage, but then months later, because you have to have the showdown in between, you go to the actual finals. Here's what people don't seem to get. The reason IEM Cologne and Katowice bang as events is because 1 billion teams get to go to the event. Like even the playing teams go on that first week. Even if they don't go beyond that, they went to the event. Then the main event itself is like 16 teams. The problem Blast has is it's a really tight little thing, but don't you want to get like 8 teams to the final or something? Like you don't get that many at the actual final. So for example, like Astralis isn't going to be at the finals in the Royal Arena. Like they don't even have a chance now. So the sad thing is, even though there's no problem with it as a format competitively, that is just a worse format if your teams. Like if your teams, you'd rather go to every Cologne where, like the joke of Cologne is you have to be really bad to not get in. Because if you're top 16, you're pretty much almost invited on the ranking, etc. And if you're not, the next like 10 or 16 teams get a chance to do that playing match where you win like 2 games or 1 game and you get through to the event. So the sad thing is, in some ways, like ESL basically also just bully them on that sense. Like I don't even think if you Blast, you can expand that. Like you probably don't have the budget to fly everyone into the main fucking fall finals. Yeah, it's going to cost loads more, of course.
Yeah, so it really leaves you wondering what the next move is for Blast. There's this Abu Dhabi gaming deal
the major, so they're obviously building into that.
But I really think the Abu Dhabi gaming deal is just going to be like a fully subsidized. Like this is a way for Blast. Blast are playing it really shrewd. Where so for their world championship, it looks like it'll be an Abu Dhabi game in Abu Dhabi. If it's in Abu Dhabi, odds are it's getting completely funded by the government there, and so venue, flights, all that sort of stuff is going to be heavily subsidized. And so Blast are going to be able to save money there, host their events there, and by the looks of it, it's going to be for the next 3 years because it's a 3-year deal, and it doesn't look like there's additional money coming into them. So it really does seem like it's probably just going to be some kind of deal that involves fully subsidizing the world championship for Blast. And then you look at the major in Paris, that is very much clearly going to be an event that is that is going to be subsidized by the French tourism board, wherever the money's going to come from. The only reason I can imagine you want to run an event like that in Paris is you're getting some heavy subsidy from the state there. So they're probably able to cut quite a few corners, and with a good bit of help from the French government on that side as well. So like Blast are playing a shrewd game, like you say, in the sense that I don't think that they don't have that much money to throw around. They really heavily invested over the COVID period in a facility and everything that put them millions in the hole. So like I don't think they have that much money to be fucking around with. So they are really trying to make those plays to just find subsidy and find ways to cut corners and keep going. Again, though, it's going to be it's going to be very difficult for them to keep along this if they don't have additional draws to set them up. At least, I know that we've said this in the past that it's very difficult to tell the impact, to see the impact of a caster on a match in terms of viewership. There almost aren't any metrics that you can use to say like, oh, this caster was casting this match and we got X more viewers or whatever. Like those metrics are really hard to find, which makes it very difficult for casters to negotiate. Because they don't really have like a go-to metric that they can point to and just be like, yeah, this is the impact that I'm having on the stream, so pay me more money. It doesn't work that way. Like the viewership, like you can put whichever caster on whichever match and you're really not going to see much of an impact in terms of viewership. But that said, there's still like brand. There's still something along the lines of, like if you can associate Launders and Scrawny with Blast and you have enough Launders and Scrawny, fans out there, then they are the Blast guys.
By the way, that's mental to me. That is actually an example where I think Blast has fucked up. Absolutely similar, right? Blast made Launders and Scrawny.
Yes,
now, I don't say that in the sense that they didn't train them, they didn't give them the tips.
No.
Look, they built their careers, but like Blast literally handed them that opportunity. I know because they came in like full-time, whatever, around the time me and Semmler came in that year where we all went online, etc. And so that was basically the whole reason they got those guys, if you don't understand fans, is because no one else was using them as a premier duo. So they were like, right, what we're going to do is we're going to brand it. And everyone knows, you think of Blast finals, you think of Launders and Scrawny doing the final. You think of like, it feels like their home arena, doesn't it? That like Royal Arena. So I think the biggest fuck up they made, Semmler, was I would absolutely have had it in my budget that by now, when we come to lands, we have those guys on an exclusive deal. Like, here's the thing. There's an out for a major. If ESL does a major, of course they can have you. Everyone wants your best talent on the major.
No, though.
But here's the thing, though. No universe am I ever let them go to a Kelowna Katowice. That has to be, because otherwise, like you say, the whole atmosphere, what made your event feel unique, is gone then. Because Freya's going to be there anyway, and now you don't have your premier duo. Like, the joke now is ESL's just gone like fucking God mode. They got all that, they have everyone they want. In fact, the people they're turning down, which we'll talk about later, that's ESL's prerogative. And those people would have said yes, almost certainly. So I think they did fuck up in that sense. Like, these guys, you must have had a point at the middle where you could have got them to sign the deal,
I think this is one of those points where it's just like you take the hit, you budget so that you can literally pay Launders and Scrawny not to be at Rio right now because you know that you have Paris coming up next. So you just take the hit. It's an ESL event. The idea that majors are some kind of independent thing now. They're not really. It started out that way, but not really. Yeah. It's not really that. Like majors, neutral ground or majors. It's like not really. When ESL
that was more a naive dream anyway. When we all used to say like, no, it should just be like the best people because it's a celebration of CSL.
It's not that way anymore.
The problem is, guys, that doesn't work when it's the TO footing the bill. They're going to be like, no. And look, if Valve gives me 10 million to run it, yeah, we can hire whoever you want. But if I'm the one footing the bill, I think I'll pick the talent. And you know what? As much as I wish we live in a different world, that is the reality of the world we live in. So it's beggars can't be choosers, guys. They're the ones footing the bill.
And it is an interesting. I mean, it is an interesting thing to kick around as X talent, right? Because thinking about it, it's not like this isn't a discussion that hasn't been had many times in terms of exclusivity and how to figure that out. But it's always a budget issue. But at this point, it's like if I'm Blast, I'm just thinking, okay, we have to put some money down on the table to keep Launders and Scrawny.
It's your only angle, like you say. What else do they have that's unique? They've actually given away the last piece of flavor they had.
It's like they don't even have a unique broadcast because ESL immediately co-ops whatever it is that they create that's new. 2 weeks later, ESL have done the same for their broadcast.
By the way, here's the edgy joke. What Blast should obviously do is invest loads of money in a huge female CSGO league because diversity is our strength. So just make the whole brand stronger. And to get all the extra viewership,
Semmler, like 500,
didn't you know that?
500 viewers. Yeah,
didn't you know that 48% of gamers are women? Like, don't you want to tap into that market? Give me a fucking break. I know the joke is like it's weird. It's weird, guys. How no one is cynically just making another league like that. It's only ESL with like Eddie Key and fucking Intel.
Yeah,
it's almost like that's all like another agenda at play than just getting raw hits and having a really cool business in it.
There you go. Really is. It's the reality. It is the reality we live in.
It's mad in the world. But, by the way, when they actually say that line as well, like that just to me, that just sounds like something out of 1984. Like diversity is our strength. Like why are you repeating that over and over again? Like
war is peace.
I know. I can't handle
that.
It.
Really is that. I mean, I think it's intentional. It's done to do that.
All right.
Because for the people who don't know, they don't know. They just think, oh yes, diversity is our strength. Yes, good. And for the people who know, it's them literally punching you in the nose, just being like, haha, we can do this, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. Haha.
What, you disagree? It's like, no.
No, brother. No, comrade.
I know.
It is the reality. Okay, was there anybody? I mean, It really does feel like a who's who in terms of the list on talent, though.
There's a few. Here's the thing. There's a bunch of angles we can go with this. Like, obviously,
Sure,
we can go on, like, there's the classic people you should have. We can do that in a second. We can do the, who's this person? Why are they on there? There's a couple of those. There's a couple of, really, on a major. And then there's a couple, which I do think, maybe you have to be me to do this because you have to have a good memory. There's a couple that are conspicuous. So which one of the three do you want to go with first?
Okay. Well, no, you know what? We're just going to go in that direction. I think we're just going to take it in that order because, you know, there's the obvious ones that we can go off of in terms of like Machine and Sponge, ESL guys, pretty much like the go-to guys right now. Bit no shock. Hugo and Harry. I thought that this would be the last one at Antwerp. Like, I thought that Hugo and Harry, when it comes to, what was it, Cologne? Was it Cologne where they weren't present? I think that was it, right? They missed a big ESL event recently.
So yeah, they weren't RMRs, right? I'll tell you that.
Because as far as I'm concerned, like whenever I think ESL talent, it's much like Launders and Scrawny with Blast. I think Hugo and Harry, I think ESL, you know, like I've associated them with ESL in the same way that Blast brought Launders and Scrawny up. Hugo and Harry were brought up by ESL and ESL.
Hey, here's
event.
the problem though, Semmler. Little asterisk to that.
Okay,
they came up during the online era when maybe you would want to push the rates down and maybe the margins would be different.
100%.
So the problem is, when people think, I agree, when you think ESL, you also think Sponge and Machine. They're also the biggest talents in all of Counter-Strike if people don't know. Like, Machine is literally someone who can walk into any other game and be a host of the biggest tournament in the world. So he has extra leverage other people don't. That's why if you notice, Machine's the only person I'm aware of who actually tells ESL, don't feel like doing this event, and doesn't even get like any kind of petty like fucking problems from it. They don't kick him off the next. Everyone else would get that, by the way. So to me, actually, I think the way they've treated Harry and Hugo this year is absolutely ESL going like, look, I did kind of make you, so how dare you actually try to charge me real rates? I think that's what was going on there, mate. So luckily, thankfully, it's resolved. They're at the major. That's all good. We can forget about, as you said, if they were not a colour, I know they weren't the RMRs, which was mad dodgy because now they were the second duo.
Listen, it's what you're doing right now if you're a TO, because again, just as a baseline, there is no metric that you can point to for a caster to justify their rates. Apart from like maybe they get a thread on Counter-Strike on the CSGO subreddit. That's pretty much like the
really
YouTube back in the day was like, oh, you got a thread or whatever on the Reddit. And so, you know, so long as you're on the Reddit, because that's really all the ESL, that's all the ESLs of the world have to go off of. Is, you know, like social media and like your impact on social media. So what's your following and are you getting a lot of chatter on Reddit or on Twitter? And so that's what they have to go off of. Now, however, like, so that's the world that you live in as a caster. You don't really have, it was a popularity contest. You don't really have anything apart from your following and, you know, and also once upon a time having other tournament organizers so that you could use them to barter one against the other. You can say, hey, you know, like Star Series is paying this, you know, can you match that? And that's how you actually go up, because competition is a good thing, because then you can actually negotiate between, you know, the different tournament organizers. And actually that's a way to raise your rate, because if it's just a monopoly, well, if it's a monopoly, you're fucked as a caster. You have no alternatives. You have no options. And that is, as Duncan just pointed out, what's so important about the position for Machine is that he has leverage. He can go anywhere he wants. He can go to other games. He's a tier 1 caster anywhere he goes. So he has that kind of leverage where you can be like, well, you know, I get this kind of rate here. So, you know, I think that you should match that. And ESL, you know, hands are kind of tied. They don't really have too many options because, hey, he has an out. Harry and Hugo, not the same thing, you know?
And also, those 2 points tied together, Semmler. When someone like Machine can play hardball, or back in the day, maybe an Anders could, or someone, whoever plays hardball, Henry G, guess what? They take that money out of the Harry and Hugos of the world's pocket to give to Machine, and that's just the way the casting world works. You know that. That's the reason why there will never be a caster union. Because the joke is, you not only directly compete against each other, but if I succeed in business, I'm not going to give it straight back to you when you don't know that business as well as me. Like, I'm just giving up my advantage there. So we're just incentivized against it, unfortunately.
Well, it's all about divide and conquer. We tried with Room on Fire, but that was like the one time I think that we got really close where we were able to raise everybody together. Because then it's like, okay, you're a Room on Fire talent, you're going to have like a certain bar to expect in terms of like rate. And then you could actually like increase those rates based off of like a group negotiation and stuff like that. So it was, in a way, it was like a union, agency, a group, whatever you want to call it. It did allow for more leverage in terms of negotiation.
By the way, everyone go.
Just blown up.
Everyone go and look at the actual graphic. It's on the IEM Twitter of the on-air talent, right? And all I want you to look at is this. I'm going to point something out, and it's going to make it immediately apparent, right? So if you look, start at the top left, so you look and you're seeing Stunner and Freya and Pally, go down the casts, Machine, Sponge. Everyone's got their shot at an ESL event of the headset on, professional-looking shot. Then you go along. Launders is seekingarrangement.com.
Yeah, what is Launders? It's like his...
And then Anders is literally just the picture of like you know, Anders Bloom, RIP, 27. I'll make it kind. 78. We miss him dearly. He was a loved father. You're like, what the fuck? Why is the Launders one though just like 80s swag? He looks like the fucking Rock back in the day. It's like, ladies,
Launders has got style.
ladies.
He looks good. It does look like he just took a selfie for Tinder or something.
It's mad,
you know what I
isn't
mean?
it? I
Like
know.
that's the vibe
mad.
where everybody else has got a decent casting sort
Yes.
of position. The one thing though, like, actually, I mean, dude, like the Anders one is the one that's got me wondering, because I know that he's working with Skybox. It's his thing.
His company. Yeah.
It's his company. So that's the thing. It's like the architect. What's the play here? Because if he's a caster,
Do you want the spicy take? Are you ready for the spicy take?
Well-
Right. I assume, because they call him the architect, that he's going to be basically someone introducing like Sky. It's implied he's going to do Skybox
yeah, but
segments.
Blair and Maui Snake know Skybox.
That's the
through and
problem.
through. So
Here's
like,
the
what are you
problem.
gonna do? Like, you got Mahone.
Let's be
Maui,
real.
like,
Let's be real. Anders, I don't care how much I love you, mate. Who the fuck actually thinks you're like some super intricate expert on tactics and stuff? Anders' whole shit was those videos he did back in the day. Like, look at this weird 10-man boost on like Dust 2.
And the
It's like,
wall bangs.
you know, or like, look at this wall bang where if they go by and you just hit them, you hit their toe. No reason why, through 7 walls. Like, the problem with that is that's funny in a YouTube video. On the stream, as you're saying there, dude, if you have that technology, I want Yanko showing me that. I want Kassad showing me that. I want Maui Steak showing me that. Mahone showing me that. Alan Ender showing me that. They Peacemaker. Everyone basically except you, Anders. You're brilliant at going human reaction or whatever it's fucking, you know, all the time. Are you kidding me? The joke is, that's what I thought. I thought, Anders Bloom, are you kidding me? He's doing fucking Skybox. And it's your own company, mate. It's your own
No,
company
that's
as
like,
well.
that's legit the question. Okay, so this is where you come back into like, or do you have ESL made men? Because like, how is Sato casting the major, and how is he back here casting with Moses, and Anders is off on the architect doing his thing? You know, it's like, how is Anders going to be at this event and not be casting with Moses?
Let's
like, that
be
is
real,
such a
though.
weird,
I think
weird
that
situation to me.
I mean, isn't it implied, if you look at how they've worked this year, that like Anders doesn't want to go to as many events, and so that doesn't seem like it's a duo to me. As far as I can tell, Moses and Sado's the duo. If you look at who's worked the events this year, they really have made the original duo. And you know what? As much as this will sound like a meme, because obviously, sadly, some of the things he did in the past played into this meme, so I'm not referencing that, but it's a real statement. I actually do think this year Sado's actually sort of chilled out a bit and looks like he has unlocked some of that potential. Not that exact percentage you're thinking about. I can't avoid that. I didn't make those fucking ground rules of memery. But he does actually seem like he's sort of unlocked the last level, so I'm cool with that. Thing is, here's the thing. Basically, casters, perfect. Right? That line's great. Then let's go to analysts. Let's get all the big ones done again. Yanko, of course, has to be there. By the way, if you don't hire Yanko, especially if you're hiring like 8 people, you're a moron. Maniac Slam Dunk had to be there. I think Maui has proved himself. He's already done the last major, so I think that's fine. Those are all immediate. Then the rest of them, like, bearing in mind, I'm not going to be working this event. Even if ESL asked me, guys, I would not have said yes. I'm not working with ESL. I'm definitely not going to fucking Brazil, so there's 2 for 1. But then if you look at the others, to be fair, there's not that many people in the actual scene who are doing the analysis. So all I'll say here is those are all fine hires generally. Like Blair and Kassad, they've done the big events. Look, the Peacemaker one's a little bit debatable because he's not an on-camera analyst.
No, that's
But
the one where
it's in Brazil. He does have special
Exactly.
insight to the Brazilian
Exactly.
teams. And I'll even say, of Brazilians, like I thought the guy, I don't give a fuck, guys. I am Thorin. I thought the guy who did the American RMR was pretty whack, actually, the Brazilian. He was just average. He didn't have great English. He couldn't express himself too much. He was just all right. And he basically was there, let's be real, to swing on fucking Imperial's nuts. So I'm not really interested in that for a major. So luckily he ain't there. But Peacemaker is better than that. He can speak English well. Like he actually knows the joke. He's been in America loads of his life and Europe and there. So that's fine by me. Like I said, debatable. Here's the thing though. My boy Alan, even though he's my boy, he has done very few big events. But fair enough. He's done some ESL events like Pro League. So he's got the call up because again, there's not that many other people. He also, by the way, is a native English speaker, so that's a great advantage. The Mahone one, I don't have a problem with. My problem is this. I would want him doing Skybox type stuff because that's where he comes from. He's a YouTube guy who makes the strats. I actually do think on camera, bear in mind this is the World Championship, he has been pretty fragile on camera. Like he looks a bit shaky. He hasn't really sort of loosened up yet. He hasn't. I think he's a pretty young guy off the top of my head. Like it doesn't really seem like he's sort of figured out his persona. The one that I actually think's mad is this. Where the fuck is Pimp? Now here's the thing. You can all go, but I don't like Pimp. I think Pimp's we're talking about top 8 in the world. Look, you can hate Pimp all you like. He's top 8 in the fucking world at analysis. By the way, he's done all the big events. He's done years and years. He was a pro. He's now got a whole career as an analyst. He definitely has insight into a specialist scene, the Danish. Mate, like, this is haterism. Like, look, I know he'll probably end up being on like TV2 or whatever in Denmark. Spoiler, you at least want the invite. You at least want ESL to go, look, would you like to work the event? So that's the thing. Even if it ends up being that, like, oh, I'm booked with them, you at least want them to say, like, would you work? Whereas I get the vibe ESL's just blanking Pimp now. He's just not going to be like a guy on there. He is, funny enough, just left with Blast. That's all he's got left at this point in time, or TV2. So I think he's in a tough spot. And now he's sort of taking his spot at Blast, you'll notice. So sadly, I think this is sort of the like canary in the coal mine that Pimp's getting pushed out, and he's just going to be on that weird Danish broadcast that we can't watch. And I think that's a shame, because the other thing Pimp also does is, this will sound counterintuitive, Semmler, he actually does get hated and be the villain. Dude, now that I left, there's no one to do that. You actually do need one guy that people even want to go, oh, bloody hell, he's on it. And then every take you have just inspires the tweet. You do want a guy like that.
Do you think Maui's trying to lean into that? I get the feeling that Maui's trying to lean into that a little bit, where he'll throw out the spice every now and again. I mean, not to the same level as you were Pimp, but I feel like he's kind of toying with maybe he wants to be the heel, could try.
But his problem is this, Semmler. This is where he can't succeed. I know Pimp couldn't do it either, right? People are going to think it's just because I'm from the UK, like, haha, lol, there's no good UK CS players. Boys, I ripped the shit out of Smooya, and he was from the UK. The joke is this: my strength as a heel, as a villain, is I hate everyone, pretty much. I can insult everyone. The problem Maui has is, as soon as it goes to NA, oh, what do you know? Like fucking Star Spangled Banner in his eyes. Like, I think OC could fucking hang with the big boy. You know, when Pimp would be talking about Danish people, like, oh, yeah, I think Zipniks could get it together. Like, shut the fuck up. So the problem everyone has is that part weakens you as a villain. I really am the guy who'd just be like Conor McGregor in it. Like, I'd just like to apologize. Don't see nobody. You're all fucking trash. Like, you know what I mean? I'd be in I Am Cologne. 1 World Cup and 2 World Wars, duda. And they're like, right, Thorin, and we start the final now. Big split. That's a real chant from the football games, by the way, if people don't know. By the way, let's pivot though, because here's the other thing. Pimp's the obvious one there that I'm missing. But in general, casters and analysts, we're doing a good job. We're getting some really good names out here. The other 2 sections, there's a few comments to make. Let's go first to desk host Semmler. Because I guarantee, I've watched loads of events. I know you're watching like the big ones. I guarantee you were going like Stunner, obviously, ESL guy, top guy. Freya, she's brilliant. It's about time she got on to be a host on a major, not just a sideline reporter. Yes. Parla, well, you know what? Some concessions have to be made. Listen, I'm legit, guys. I don't even actually dislike Parla as a person. Just not a huge fan of him on camera. And by the way, not for all events either. If you're having a fun event, get Parla. I just don't feel like he has the gravitas, if you know what that word means, for the big events. It's not really my vibe. It's not even his style. His style is that comedian. The problem, obviously, is the 4th name, isn't it, Semmler? When you come to Veracity. Do you even know who that is?
Nope.
She's only done a few events. She did a bit of Cologne. She's done some smaller events like ESL Challenger and stuff. The problem with that one is this, Semmler. That's just the next person in the ESL talent pipeline that they're making. That's just someone they've brought through their system. I think she comes from some other game. I think it's not even CSGO. I couldn't tell you what game. I would guess like what PUBG or something. I'm going to guess. I know she's from the UK.
I'm checking her Twitter right now. Jack of all esports trades.
By the way, she wasn't bad. Like I actually thought she had some potential on camera. My problem obviously is this. It's the World Championship of Counter-Strike. Like, guys, this isn't like, it's not like year 1 of CSGO. So, look, the real issue there is, if you wanted the best desk hosts, the obvious name you would take from elsewhere on this list is you would take Shocks and you would put her up and you'd at least get, even if she was the 4th host, like just doing the odd game. Because I'll tell you what the implication there, if you're a fan, that you don't get is this. It is implied, Semmler, I want to see what you think of this, that means one of 2 things. Almost certainly, if Shocks wanted to be a host, I think she could do it. So that implies 2 things to me. 1, she doesn't want to do a hosting gig. Like, she just wants to go to Brazil. She obviously likes Brazil. She always says it on her socials all the time. She just wants to go to Brazil, do interviews, which is cool. It's a specialty she also has from League and Worlds and all that crap. And then she just doesn't want to be the full-time host. She doesn't want to, like, invest like she did to Antwerp. And probably, let's be real, she'll be doing Paris Major on almost because she speaks French, right? So I would imagine she either didn't want to, and here's the other angle. You know, when everyone always goes, I think this person should be there. Well, I think this person. No fan, like CSGO salaries, knows what people charge. Shocks is not going to be on a cheap day rate, boys. In no fucking universe. So the other angle is this. Maybe she was too expensive and ESL didn't want to do it. Maybe they just wanted to have on one roll. And it was like that. Because if you don't know, when you've got talent like people like Shocks and Machine do, unless they just want you, it has to be you at the top gig. It's like selling sponsorship to someone. You have a whole deck. Do you want to be my title sponsor? Or do you want to be a sideline sponsor? Or do you want to be one of my partners? And they're all priced differently. And it's like a shop. You go and you pick from the menu. I think for me, I'm just going to take you as a partner for this one. Oh no, I've got my whole budget, so I'm going to put you as the title. That's the question I have is, it's one of those two, right? It's either ESL couldn't afford or she just doesn't want to be the host. Surely, is there a third?
Problem is that now, like, unfortunately, I've been around producers and I've been around these people too much now, so I know how they think. And unfortunately, it to me, if at a glance to me, it just feels like I've literally had an executive tell me this once, where they're like, "Do you know a good female for a role? You know, we're looking for females, preferably Asian." Like, I've literally had an executive ask me that. I'm like, I know good people at their jobs. It never occurred to me to like think of it in those terms. But if that's what you're doing, you know. Okay.
Wait a minute. I know what you mean by that, Semmler. But the way you span that, they're like, is she a woman? I hadn't even noticed. I don't see color and sex.
No,
I just,
but that is the esports. I
guess she does have
esports
a small
and gaming
waist.
used to be, where none of those things mattered. It's just like, are you good or not? That's pretty much it. That's always been it. It's been a meritocracy, or at least as close.
And
to
Semmler pulls up the Instagram. Oh, you're right. She is in fact a woman.
She is in fact a woman, and well, like the thing is, to me, it's like that's the angle that this screams to me.
It is.
They were trying to find a way, because again, notice in the middle, and this is just, we're gonna go down this rabbit hole because this is how you have to look at the world now. Unfortunately, that's just the world that they've brought into our space. Once upon a time, you wouldn't even think about this. Now, because of them, you have to. So.
Think about the response to the PGL Stockholm talent list. This is what they did.
A lot of men in the middle, not a single woman in the casters, not a single woman in the analysis, a lot of men going on there, So where can you actually get some women into it? It's going to be in the sideline. It's going to be in the desk host. And so I just think that is literally how they're operating. There's like, listen, it's desk host. How hard could it be? We'll just put somebody in there. It's going to be a girl. Boom, find her, put her in. She's not going to be expensive. She has 5,000 followers on Twitter, and she clearly is still trying to make her way up. Perfect for ESL as far as they're concerned, because they are just like you say, Harry Hugo, all those, Alan.
Exactly.
It's like, just if they need to have a few extra bodies, you just find some guys and then boom, put them in there. Yes. The problem is, I would not really care about this, except for this is a major. So again, it's like exactly. It's a major. It's a world championship. This isn't a Cologne. This isn't. I mean, the thing is, what's crazy is that, in my mind, I'm still thinking of Cologne as much of as a major as well. It's like, where's your small events to put these people on so they can,
she was on some of the small ones. She did like ESL Challenger or
something.
No, she did ESL Challenger.
She did ESL Challenger.
The problem is, if people don't know, you can't have it both ways, guy. Because when me and Semmler came up, we were #1 in the world at our job, and here's the messaging we got from the ESLs of the world. That's not how the industry works, guys. You don't get to skip the queue. There's people who've been here for years before you from CS 1.6, and they've worked with us before.
And it's the same people.
So you know what?
Still the same people.
Yeah, so this was the logic. They were like, you know what? You just wait your turn. This is the advice I've given everyone, because it's what was told to me. You wait your turn, and your reputation lags a year or two behind. So don't worry. In a year or two, you get all the gigs. It's true. A year or two later, we were getting every gig. The problem is this, Semmler. Now they want to just flip it and go, what do you mean this person's good, so I'm going to put them straight on the major? Yes. Well, which is it? You were the one who set the precedent. We didn't. We're just saying be consistent.
No, the prior one was the one that actually could allow you to have some pride in your work. Because now this next one, the way that it's set up now is utterly soul destroying for you, because you don't know, did you get it through hard work? Did you get it through all of the hours that you put into it and actually worked your way up step by step and went up the hierarchy and went up through the way and got more followers and got more exposure, worked more small events, more gigs here, built out your resume? You did all those things. Or did you just get hired because you're a woman who happens to be also of color, which is a double whammy? And, there we go. We're going to bring you onto the broadcast. Too, yeah, and you're going to go ahead and hop all the way to the front. And it's just like, how like, can you take pride? Like, can you actually take pride in something that you've put work into at that point? If you have that gnawing at the back of your head, if you don't know that you got there the way that others did, that's what's soul destroying about this. And this is what I despise. This is what I hate about it. It's like, if I knew her name, like, that's the problem. It's because it's a major, but it's like, if I knew her name, like, oh yeah, Veracity, fuck yeah, she's done this. Like, she's been in CS for a year and a half, 2 years. She's been doing
still rookie year, dude.
Like Alan, that's the thing. It's like Alan okay, maybe like he's been a coach, he's been an analyst, he's done his YouTube, he's done stuff. It's like, okay, he's put in some work, like maybe a stretch. To be fair, I'd probably take Pimp over Allen. You know, if the chips were down,
come on.
it's like you'd take Pimp over Allen. But it's like at least Allen has got a background in Counter-Strike and he bleeds Counter-Strike.
Yep.
You know, for other roles, it's just like, come on, guys. So that's where it's just it gets a little bit frustrating. It's the same thing with like Peacemaker as well. You know, it's like you could have a Pimp instead of a Peacemaker. I get why you have Peacemaker there. It's because he's Brazil. Shit, he probably lives in Rio, so you don't. It's about saving money on a flight. He's already in Brazil. It's fantastic.
Oh,
Like,
and also, by the way, here's the other sad thing. Bearing in mind, Peacemaker, as far as I know, is not employed at the moment. Remember, he used to be the Imperial coach, and they fired him to put FNX in to not talk and just go FNX no major or whatever the fuck that shit meme is, right? The joke is, like, I bet Peacemaker doesn't even get paid that much. I bet he's the cheapest fucking guy on the list, or he might even be doing it, like, not for free, but, like, for almost,
just to be able to be
borderline for free. Yeah, and just to be part of the major.
That's it. He's just he's part of the major in a way.
Yeah. By the way, here's also where you know, this is why it's sad that Flashpoint was never in this spot. Because here's what I would do. If I signed Anders to a deal, and part of the deal, because it's with fucking Skybox, is like he has to be like the guy presenting it, I would just make it banter. Like, I would soften the blow and wouldn't make people like me critics. I'd do a whole intro. Imagine this intro, like, they thought his box had gone, but his box is very much alive. Skybox. Because you know, like, your box is gone in English. It's like, oh, he's fucking lost his man. Because that's the whole thing about Anderson Go. His box had gone. Tweets all flash up like, have you ever thought about what about if an octopus could put chocolate up your anus at 4 in the morning? And then you see the timestamps on those tweets. I even told him, mate, it's so obvious you're high as shit. I know, because I'm reading it high as shit at 4 in the morning. Bloody hell. Like, and then the next one, next day, like, have you ever thought, what if instead in like Marty McFly had been played by a young Donald Trump? Like, I've never thought of that at all. Like, just shower thoughts with Anders. So it's like everyone did think his fucking box had gone, didn't it? And then now it's like, but he's back with a new box, Skybox. And all the money raining down. There you go. That's how my intro would be. Instead, they just put a shitty thing. The architect, just put he's the architect today. ESL Grey. Welcome to ESL Grey, the architect. Oh, that sounds really fun and sort of playful. Like, what is it like? I just said he is the architect. Like, can you not read? He is making something for us, and this will be good. It's like, where's the razzmatazz? Where's the why would I have all of this? This is a video game tournament. I am very serious. Like, give me it. By the way, I should start doing that German accent more. It's not bad, is it?
The way that ESL would look at that, the German would look at that is like, well, what is the return on investment if we were to put in the time developing?
Exactly. No, you know, just have a bit of fun. Throw it about fun. We're not here for fun. Listen, the first thing that we bonded with the Saudis on is no fun. There will be no fun. There will be profit and consistency. Humanity will become a commodity. That was actually our tagline in the business proposal. I know, like, get me out, just get me the fuck out.
It is like, what is going on?
That's the worst thing, by the way. In the Matrix movie, they had fucking Hugo Weaving, like a badass character actor playing Agent Smith. In real life, Agent Smith would just be some guy at the fucking flying DJ, like, excuse me, in the Matrix, this is illegal. I'm going to send you to prison now. Like, you're not even cool. You're just shit as a fucking villain, aren't you? No. You're just some boring ass suit, you fucking asshole. And everyone just morphs into him. You see, oh no, bloody hell, oh, they're all morphing into the flying DJ. Oh shit. Obviously played still by the guy who played Cypher though. Just logically to use the cast still. Also, Richard did point out the ultimate banter of all time.
What did he do?
If you count it, there are 24 talent announced. Well, remember, in Brazil, 24's that number that just means like gay for some bad reason. And we're all supposed to pretend that's just normal. I know, it's mental, innit? I know.
No, this is it. That's why he's the architect. That's why Anders stands out. It's 23 plus 1. There you go.
There you go.
That's it. They fucking played it. Meta.
Exactly.
23 talent plus 1 architect. Guys, this is it. We're into something. Richard, you're onto something, dude. Good shit.
And by the way, just to fill out the other ones, Heku absolutely deserves to be there. She's clearly loves CS. She's put in mad hours. She's even doing all that shit with HLTV. She's absolutely
she's doing the side content.
Banks, look, there's not that many people for sideline. He does an all right job. He's worked the past majors. It's an obvious hire. So I think, yeah, in general, these are all pretty good hires. I think it's a pretty good talent list all in all. I will say this, though, Semmler. I had to, bite my tongue so bloody hard on the latest episode of Snake and Banter, also on Insight and CSGO channel. Now it's Last Free Nation. Look at the YouTube box below. The latest episode came out today. Great fucking ad read, right? On that episode, there's a part where one of Maui's points is that he does feel like when they have like what was the analogy? It was something that, like, when they have discussions on desks, like, they don't feel like the discussion's getting pushed forwards and they're sort of circling the same topics. And it's a bit stale. And you know how much I had to bite my lip to not just be like, oh, really, Maui? Is it almost like everyone on there is just a former pro or somebody who's only looking at demos trying to tactically break the game down? You've only got 30 seconds and you're all trying to fit stuff in there. And it feels like you're circling on the same topics. And really what you'd need is someone to sort of like spice things up a bit, you know, throw in a bit of banter, maybe get some historical reference, maybe do like an edgy little throw over someone. Basically, like, but it feels so empty without me. Like, yeah, it's me. It's just missing me, isn't it? Like, I know, because guess what? The secret to my career, Semmler, was I made a particular flavor called Thorin, and I'm the only one who supplies it. So if you want that, look, if you want a Yanko, you can get someone pretty much a bit like Yanko, but not Serbian, or you can get Kasad now. I mean, Kasad is that cheap
guy who's just going to deadpan a bunch.
But you can't get someone like me, can you? Because the joke is, people like Pimp tried it and they were like, I couldn't even last a week like that with the bloody tweets. It's like, yeah, exactly, mate. Try my life for 20 years.
Dude,
Not to get egotistical or anything, though. It'll be a perfectly great event without me. And also, I would never go to an event in Brazil, so don't worry about it.
Oh, no, not knocking it at all. I think that, as far as like what we're knocking it on is mainly like things that go around the talent, you know, like the blast angle with ESL and whether or not they should hold on. Like in terms of the talent of the talent, like fucking rock solid. Like this is a home run as far as talent is concerned. Casters, bangers, analysts, bangers, everybody else, you know, it's super solid. I'm happy to see Stun at a major finally after getting jilted by PGL over and over again. So it's like, okay, good. Stun has got his major now.
I will say
okay.
That is still one of the stupidest faux pas, and I'd tell him this to his face. Doing that DMs. Like DM.
I didn't know about that. To be fair.
It's just such a bad. Like, if you don't know, fans, there's no upside to that, because here's what he fucked up with there. If that was like ESL or an American brand, they might actually, to try and squash the beef and bad PR, hire you for some mad logic, like when I fucked with them. Of all the people to do that with, don't do it with a fucking Romanian OG gangster in fucking esports who doesn't absolutely have to play to any PR things. And remember, think about how it went with Stockholm and Antwerp. Has shown you he doesn't give a fuck what the community thinks if he likes it his way. Of all the people to try and strong arm, like you that was a miss on that one. That was a swing and a miss. You should have bunted that one, mate. Like, you might have had a chance to get to first base.
That's a fair point. That was a swing and a miss. But
enough about config.
He is still doing the hosting. What? I mean, he's still the hosting. He's still, as far as I'm concerned, you know, one of the top two hosts along with Freya. It's basically, I think hosting, I think Stone, I think Freya. You know, it's like, so to see them on the desk, that's good. I'm happy about that.
Second biggest swing and a miss after config.
We don't know how that went, do we? Maybe he swung and he hit, but then, you know, the other guy just hit harder. Config's the other guy. You know, oh, you should have seen the other guy. Turns out Config is the other guy.
Exactly.
Oof. All right. So I think this is probably a good transition into what comes next, which is, well, I mean, I guess we should just get into the device news. We should just talk about Astralis device. That's
the best part, isn't it? Because think about how hilarious that is. Everyone was already saying, do you remember on past episodes, we were all thinking, right, even if like device just replaces Farley, and you've obviously still got config and you've got Blame F and you've got Zipnix and Glaive, but then it's Zipnix, isn't it? Well, no, the best thing is, because of the stupid config drama, now there's not even config, and it actually just sucks all the, I know everyone was really hyped today, but actually I can't get, listen, I'm hyped that device is going to play CS again. That's cool for me. Yes. I'm even hyped maybe that he's going to play with Glaive. That's a cool angle. They could help build their careers back up together. The actual premise for the team, though, bear in mind, they're not in the major, they're not in Blast, and they've just got this flawed team. It's actually not, it's, the config news has cut the whole fucking legs out from under the, obviously, you know, listen, I didn't do that. The English language was invented before me, but yeah, it's just sort of made it barely have a leg to stand on, you know what?
You got another one in too.
By the way, hope config gets better soon, of course.
You just can't catch a break, that config guy.
Nah, he can. That's his problem.
That's what I did every time.
The problem is he got one big break. He's never really recovered since. Whatever. Look, get well soon. Yeah, that's it.
You're right.
I hate to kick a man when he's down.
It was so much so that I went on to the when the announcement was made, I was like, oh, dude, that's a sick jersey. Let's see like how much it costs or whatever. Because Astralis jerseys, you can knock them all you want. They know how to do design and the quality. Yeah. It's one of the best jerseys I have. I have an Astralis jersey upstairs, and it's just the quality is so good. So I was like, oh, let's take a look. And it crashed the site. Like I couldn't actually log into their shop. They must have been getting so much traffic from the announcement that I couldn't actually get into the shop to check the jersey. So, you know, good on them. dude, Astralis have got a hardcore fan base. Talk about a good lineup there, at least. It's like get the 2023 jersey out with device, double whammy. Just get in there and sell some jerseys. Fucking hey, good work on that. I mean, that was a home run as far as they're concerned. But as far as the roster is concerned, holy shit, what are we doing? I mean, people seem to think that that he won't even replace Farleague. That as in no, like that Farleague is going to be the one that replaces him. But I mean, like, wouldn't you hold on to Device and Farleague and bench Mister or put Mister back on the it's like, are you going to hold on to Mister instead of Farleague? I know that they tried to swap Farleague out to Sprout, but like now at this point, you clearly, like, the thing is, okay, the way that the Astralis situation plays out and the why it's been so predictable, like how they've played this out, is that if you know that they're pretty much like they don't have any money, all of their moves play like a team who is trying to cut as many corners as possible and save every penny as possible. Like they won't do big buyouts, they won't do any big spends for players. They haven't forever. The only big spends that they have were in terms of like, just setting up big salaries, right? Or like we assume big salaries, or doing multi-year long deals, like for Zipnix or whatever.
Yeah, the only people they've spent on, as far as we know, is the salaries for Clave and Zipnix, where they give them this huge deal. If people forget, because they are going to forget this, you're going to, what do you mean? They're blame for COVID. They got them for free. Their contracts had finished. Yeah. The problem is this, and this is a key point people are going to miss. I already saw people who were like, here's the weird thing people don't get. It was egg on Nip's face when Device wasn't going anywhere and was just sat on the bench, not playing, not doing sponsor stuff. That made them look silly because they bought him, remember, to make a world championship team and go for the major. It's actually not at all egg on Nip's face now. Nip has absolutely turned this into a fucking W, and they're fucking throwing up gang signs on the way out the room, mate. Like, as far as we can tell, this is where I'm going to just read the situation without knowing the specifics, because no one does. It's going to be speculation. I would guess, Semmler, that a mixture of the config thing coupled with not making the major and not making Blast in Copenhagen is why Astralis has suddenly pulled the trigger on a move that, as you said, Jackson drew out forever, because that was what was going on. As far as here's what happens behind the scenes when you have a story like that. Rops to FaZe, all these other ones. Here's what happens when the story's like, Monacy to G2. What happens there is, as soon as it comes out as a rumor, that's when the team who wants him would have signed him. They would have just signed him immediately when they ask in the choir, how much is he? What that means, if it just keeps getting drawn out, like both parties are sort of intimate, like we want it to happen, but it's not happening. What that means is they're negotiating and haggling the price. Now, the problem here is the leverage is always on the side of the org who has the player if there's enough time left on the contract. That's why I told you Rops would definitely eventually go to FaZe, but he didn't have to go early because at the time they had an insane buyout. It was like $1.5 million or something. So FaZe's, Mouse's perspective was, look, I either want him in my team so I can be good, or I want to sell him for, like, let's say, maybe not $1 million, $1 million. Like, I'm not going to just let him go for like 400K on the basis you and him want to play together. Like, that isn't how business is done. So as far as I can tell, my read...
Now,
go on.
That's not how business is done now. It's worth just interjecting real quick to point out that once upon a time, the way that the contracts work, this was according to Odie, the old Dignitas contracts, is that the buyout started high. If you just signed the player, the buyout for that player would be high, but that it degraded over time. And so that you couldn't just say, there's 2 months left on the contract, but I'm going to ask for $1 million. It's like it would be stipulated in the contract that no, at that point, you can charge like X percentage of whatever the salary is, whatever. Like they work out the numbers so that as it gets closer to the end of the contract, it goes down. That's where it was a little shady in terms of like Mouse Sports putting a big fat buyout on Rops, even though you had like a couple months left, where it's just like, guys, come on.
Yeah, but here's the thing. This is the part people aren't understanding, right? Remember when Device went to NIP? It was around May of 2021, right? So last year in about May. Logically, if he's still under contract, a year's gone by. So it's a 2-year contract, right? That means they have until the next major. By the way, fluke, but couldn't be more perfect if you nip. You failed this major, and I can hold him till the next major starts. And remember, as soon as you play the RMR, no Device for you. So that means, actually, the ones who have Astralis over a barrel's nip, it's not the other way around. People people think like, oh, Astralis must have gotten a really good deal. No, I think the opposite. If I had to guess, what's happened is they tried to haggle for months and months and months and months to get the deal down, right? In the meantime, by the way, NIP even qualified to a major with LXCB. They don't even necessarily need the money from Device right now. It's just to recoup the costs they do and to not look silly.
Because they've
and
been
they've
paying.
now, and if I had to guess, I would guess they recouped most of the costs. And actually, in the end, this is one of the few big spends Astralis did. And I think the config thing, by the way, made it even more pressure on Astralis because now you look really fucking stupid. You've got no future in the lineup. The only thing that could at least PR-wise save your team, let's bring back the greatest player who ever played for our org. He's not even playing CS right now. In fact, if you look at the statements made, by the way, where he's just coming back now about what's going wrong and about how he was feeling really terrible and sleeping really bad, it's even implied, Semmler, he doesn't even know if he can play now. He's just going to start working on it together and they're going to find a way he can play. So as a result, in my opinion, this is a big PR.
Where did you hear that information?
You can go and read it on the website.
Oh, the actual press release in terms
There's
of
a
like
statement on
state?
the Astralis website that says all this shit. Yeah.
Oh fuck! I didn't read the actual. That's why you go and read the actual press release and not just stay on Twitter and
Right,
look
let
at
me
the
see if I
launch
can
video.
find it for you.
Because that has been the major point of criticism that I've had ever since this device thing got even mentioned. It's just like, okay, it's Device. You're going to take the risk on a player of Device's caliber just because of the pedigree, just because of his status. But that said, remember why he went on the bench and remember why he hasn't touched the game since. The reason that they've been giving, ever since, when they have given a reason, is, he's out for mental reasons. He's out for mental issues. Mental issues are really tricky to solve. It's not like a bone that heals and that's it. 6 weeks later, you're good to go again. It can take a while. So the question is whether or not they've addressed those problems. And also, my major concern with the Device play is like, okay, fantastic. You're going to bring him back in. That's obviously going to step up your op game. I mean, Glaive, if anybody's going to know how to get the best out of Device, it's going to be Glaive. You know that they've worked together, right? There's the Zipmix Glaive. Playmef is doing well. Like, there's a good team there. But when you look at it now, there is all the pressure in the world once again on Device's shoulders because there's going to be insane expectations with him coming back home, 4-time major champ. This is he built the team. He's all of the accolades are just going to weigh on a guy who apparently, took a step back due to mental issues. So the question is,
I'm wrong. It was on a TV2 Danish article that's been translated. Basically, I'll tell you the rough gist of it. Let me just do the translation with there. Do it to English. Right. Basically, he says, right, here's the way he says it, Semmler. This way phrasing is really going to make you nervous if you're an Astralis fan. He goes, it is a lie if you think it cannot happen again, but I have a handle on how to handle various symptoms, and I'm not worried about it at all, says Device. Because part of it, he said, basically he was having stress, which led to anxiety and depression, and then that he didn't sleep very much, and that it was hell for him. That's why he had the long break. So, by the way, that even implies, luckily he doesn't have to play for Astralis for a while now because there's fuck all tournaments left. But that even implies it's not like he's playing tomorrow. He's necessarily scrimming tomorrow, whatever. It maybe even implies he's going to work his way back in, which is why, and this is the other key thing to point out, Semmler, I don't really believe, I actually think for real that whole thing about how there was another org bidding, which was like that whole thing, and they I don't think that was real. What org would it be? No one's ever been able to even guess. No one's ever even guessed the name. So I actually think, by the way, that's what you call a rumor that Astralis put out. That would be my guess, just a guess. I think what Astralis did is they put out a rumor so that it could seem like, oh, that's why we haven't signed him yet. It's a bidding war. No, I think what happened was Astralis was trying to lower it. And then even worse, their position got weakened. Like the config thing happened. They don't make the RMR, the major rather. They don't make blast. They're looking worse and worse. They need a PR win so badly. And then on top of it, if this is true behind the scenes, that he's not even necessarily coming back to active play tomorrow, then who else is going to sign him now? Like, who the fuck would sign him if you're going to end up like Nip? Like, there's your $600,000. Now, when do you play, Nikolai? Well, the thing is, that's difficult to say, and I'd be lying if I said I could play tomorrow because I've still got a lot of anxiety. But oh, what the fuck? I've just done a Nip to myself.
That's why I didn't understand the play. That's why I didn't understand it. The idea that everybody was just like, jump on board the Device train right out the gates. It's like, listen, you have to understand. I'm saying this just because you have to speculate about and go down these paths. You have to, if you're trying to put yourself in the shoes of a GM who's making big money decisions for his team, and you're obviously trying to build teams that are going to win trophies, and you're obviously trying to keep your team going, and especially if you're Astralis, when you're already on the ropes and your share price has gone off a fucking cliff and you don't really have much going for you right now, it's like you need to be really serious about the decisions that you're making. And so and it's not, maybe it's not obvious, and so I have to put it out there. It's like, I absolutely wish the best for Device, and I hope he comes back full strength and just fucks everybody up, and we get the return, the glorious return of Device to the server. Of course, nobody wishes otherwise, and I'm one of of those people who's like, absolutely, I want to see him do it. But you still have to ask these questions. It's if you're trying to put yourself in a GM position, it's like, okay, here's a guy who I know has been on the bench for a year due to mental issues. Has he decisively solved these issues? And also, what environment is he going to be going into when he does get back into the server? At least now it's like he isn't just jumping into the deep end, going into the major or something where the expectations are going to be insane and everybody's going to be like, oh, they're going to go deep in the major now. Device is going to do like. That might have been the worst case scenario. This actually, I think you're right, might be the best case scenario where it's like you have this ESPO tournament that's coming up, the last tournament that Astralis have going into it. So we'll see if Device plays there. That's a small tournament, not too much going on. It could be a nice way to ease into it, see what you need to work on, get some officials in because there's only officials that you can really test shit with. You can scrim all day, but it really takes an official to really see if a strat works or not and what needs to be tweaked and not. So you could do this tournament with Device, use that as a way to say, okay, this worked, this didn't work. We've noticed this here. Like you can set the template going forward so that after the Christmas break, boom, you know exactly what you need to be working on going into the first matches of the new season in January, and it gives you an actual plan to work towards. So this probably, funnily enough, this might actually be the best case scenario for Device coming back into Astralis because there's no major tournament. Like it's not Blast World Championship, it's not Blast Fall Finals, it's not Blast. It's like you don't have any of those major events that would really fuck with you. Because if you were in Blast Fall Finals, that's in the Copenhagen. That's in Copenhagen. That's in the Royal Arena. That's in front of all of your fans. That the pressure there to perform would be immense again. So this might all work out. I guess the real speculation revolves around you've got Glaive, you've got Device, you've got Blamef. If everybody's firing on all cylinders, now what are you doing about the other two? Because everybody that I'm seeing on Twitter is just like, wow, there at least needs to be another 2 changes to make this a tournament worthy team. So I'll just throw it to you. Like, what do you think? What do you think needs to happen as far as the roster is concerned to get this into a tournament winning kind of roster? Or do you think they have what it takes right now?
As in, you want me to ignore what they will do and just say what I would do, basically?
Okay, give us both. Give us what they will do first, and then give us what you would do.
I personally think this is the only move they're going to do. That was the whole reason to finally break the piggy bank open, buy Device. Like I said, not only get a good player, but also you don't even have to use him again. But that probably also a reason the deal was delayed. Maybe he wasn't ready to play yet, and maybe you thought there was no point buying him and then going and playing an RMR and having Farley just shit his pants. So maybe that was even why you held off and you thought, I'll wait till the next player break or whatever. Because remember, like I say, I assume his contract ran till next year, which means, by the way, Nip had almost a year left of leverage. Let's say 6-8 months or something. That's a pretty long period of time when you're horny to have the guy in your team. And then the other angle I would say is this, I also think, let me think how I would say this. I also think, like I say, it's a PR win. Every little, remember, the people who are the fans of Astralis who queue up to go to that Nexus building, who go to the Royal Arena, if you've ever seen them, they're not hardcore CS fans. They are a dad who would normally be watching football or Formula One, and they've got their son, and this is a brilliant thing, by the way. This is one thing I do agree with. That is a way that fathers and sons can bond. They need to have activities they can do together. They can't just be the dad's watching soccer, and then the kid's in his bedroom playing Minecraft, and there's no connection. And they're like, are you winning, son? It's I'm playing Minecraft, dickhead. There can't be that. It has to be. So in that sense, it's good. But the problem is, all that fan's going to hear is Ronaldo's come back to Man United. I'll use the same story. Ronaldo's back at Man United. That's a PR win, whether it's good or not initially, because it's Ronaldo and he's back with a team he was really good with. So the problem is, I think that's the reason why they've done this move. And I think the config move, like I said, just increased the pressure that they had to get a PR win. It was looking really bad for the future of the team. But the problem is, I don't think they're going to make any moves, mate. Here's the thing. You just, if you know the way people are in esports, people are notorious in esports for throwing good money after bad. People are notorious for refusing to accept that they made a mistake and just doubling down. So here's the thing. I said it ages ago, mate. I said it 6 months ago. I would already have cut my losses with Zipnix. I'd have said, you know what? I fucked up on this contract. I did a really bad job. But you know what? There's no point also then tanking the team's results. So I'll eat the cost of the contract like you do with a bad contract in the NBA, and I'll just sign a good player, maybe a cheap player, an up-and-coming player, and I'll put him in the team, and I'll hope that we're good. I would have taken a Copenhagen Flames player or something if I didn't have much money. Maybe now Nikados was in my team, or fucking Yabi or something like that, right? Instead, they didn't. What they did is, as far as I can tell, they've just, if you notice, when has Astralis ever admitted publicly that Zipnix is bad? Go look at any interview. Go look at interviews with Zipniks, with fucking Blame F. None of them. Nobody. They act like he's not even there, dude. The joke about Zipniks was you were normally singing his praises because of how much he brought to the team and how much extra he did and the clutch minister and all that. Now you just ignore it unless it's some PR angle. Like, look, the clutch minister wants you to vote this team, this party in Denmark. Like, mate, of all the people I don't want giving me a life advice right now, Zipnik's probably top of the list. So I think personally, they will absolutely go down with this ship, Semmler. He is the fucking iceberg and Astralis is the Titanic, and they are just going to go down with fucking Zipnik's, mate. They're going to let him just fuck the rest of the team for the rest of Europe, maybe even through the next year, because the problem is if that deal... It sounds to me, I don't know the details of his contract, but the other thing is this also. If his contract was a cynical old school contract where you could just cut the guy and bench him and give him half as much and pay him off and just pay him a 2-month salary to fuck off, you'd have done it already because there's so many years, it wouldn't be worth it. You wouldn't be worth paying extra years of an enormous salary. I think they can. I think they've locked themselves into a nightmare contract because they thought this guy was just going to be good forever. They thought he's going to be old Zipniks forever. Of course I want him. He's the perfect player. So I think they've fucked themselves, dude. I think this team, they change one player and it ain't Zipniks. I think Farley goes. I think they bring Device in, he's the AWPer, and I think Farley goes. You've seen they're trying to get the stair guy from fucking Sprout, like you mentioned. There's other players out there. You could also go and get like some of the players who, remember, there's tons of, you could go get a refresh or someone. Like, I know he's also in Sprout, but like these are the sorts of level of players I think they can potentially get as the 5th guy. But sadly, because they keep Zipniks, I don't think it's enough, mate. Remember, we're also all assuming Device just comes back amazing. I also think he can do it. Like, give him 3 months, I think he'll be really good. But that doesn't mean from day one you can just plan, like, yeah, well, I've got, like, my simple here, and I've got, like, it isn't simple, mate. Like, we don't know yet what form he's coming back in. In fact, as I said from that last statement, we don't even know to what degree he's coming back yet. Is he going to ease his way in the lineup? Is he going to come straight back and be a proper player? So, sadly, I don't think they do much. I think they just keep this, like, semi-whack team. And I'll tell you what, now it is going to heavily be on the shoulders of Glaive and Device to fucking make this team good, because everyone knows Blame F's really good. The stats tell you it. The eye test tells you it. Aside from Blame F, there's no config anymore, so there is no actual consistent element to this team. Glaive hasn't been a great IGL, really. We haven't seen Device play in over a year now, almost a year. Like, and then here's the last detail no one's talking about, Semmler. Who's the coach of Astralis? Anyone know? Anyone know? Anyone know?
I mean, I thought that they gave the step up to their what is it? The coach of their talent team. I don't even know his name.
I mean, if you go look at Wikipedia, no one's listed. So I think temporarily they put the talent guy, like Newcastle or whatever his name was, wasn't he? Wasn't it some shit like that? I think as far as I know, he was like temporarily the coach. When I go and look here, I don't see anyone listed. Who is the coach of it? Well, there's another thing, right? I'm sick and tired of this, Semmler. You guys can't tell me that Zonic was the greatest coach of all time because of what he did with the Astralis 5-man lineup and all the way he built the system and the approach and then act like they can just have not as good a lineup and no coach or a nobody coach and be as good. In that case, you're implying Zonic did nothing. If Zonic is really good, you need a really good coach. So there's another problem. Logically, they need to go shopping for a big coach as well, Semmler. They need to bring in, like, my boy Kassad or fucking Zeus. I haven't even heard any rumours about that. Dude, people are acting like they don't need a coach. So they've not only got a flawed lineup, they have no coach, and as far as I can tell, no direction to the team. We're just relying on Blame F to keep being Blame F, Glaive and Device to roll back layers, and Zipniks to not quite shit the bed too much. And that's without even knowing who the 5th player is. And if it's Farley, what's the point in Farley being a rifler? If he's in the team, he should be the AWPer. I always thought, by the way, it was a waste of time signing him if you weren't going to do it in good faith. In good faith, you should have set the team up around him like a real AWPer, given him his chances. If he fails, you cut him. If he doesn't fail, great, you got a good player. Instead, they sort of gimped him like they did every bloody player they brought in, like they did with Bobski, like they did with Lockie. They never properly gave him a crack of the whip, as it were. They never gave him like a chance. So I think personally they do nothing. Now, if it was up to me, it depends how much money I've got. Like, one thing I would do tomorrow is I'm cutting Zipniks. I have to. That's just being wanting to win. And I don't care everyone who's going to go. Like, here's how you know. I made this metric years ago, Semmler, and it works like a motherfucker. Like, you know when everyone would say back in the day, oh, you can't cut Freiburg from NIP. He's like the soul of NIP. And plus, what if he gets his level up again? So here's the line I used to say back then. I'll say it here. If I cut Freiburg tomorrow, which of my rival teams at my level, my peers, rush and sign Freiburg? Nobody. You knew Fnac was never signing him. If you remember, he went to fucking the shitty Heroic. And then that was just the end of his career, except for Dignitas pulling him out the grave to give him the last dance, which at this point was like a fucking weekend at Bernie's or something. Like, mate, there's no world in which if I cut Zipnik, someone else is rushing to... Do you think Heroic goes and signs Zipnik tomorrow if he gets cut from our team? If they do, by the way, they're morons. It's career suicide.
Gotcha.
So the joke would be, if he gets cut tomorrow, he probably ends up on Sprout or something. It would have to be, right? It would have to be some nobody team. Or he goes to like a Copenhagen. He'd have to be on some nobody team. That's how you know that, like, if the logic goes, if no one else would sign him, why is he on your team? That's what I would say. So I'm cutting Zipniks tomorrow. Then what I'm doing is, look, I've said it before. If I've got money and I actually want to win, I'm going to a Heroic and I'm going, look, I know we had our history in the past, but let me know what these buyouts are. What is the buyout for Shush? What is the buyout Sprout for this guy? I'll pay it. I want the players. I want to win again. I would pay. Now, if you can't pay, then you've got to go the sort of free route, haven't you? You've got to go the cheap route. In which case, by the way, here's what you use your money on. Your coach. You buy a coach, or even worse, you get that coach who's banned, who's in your org, Hunden, who's definitely only designing AIM lab training sessions. And you even said in an interview, unofficially to Richard Lewis, we'd probably give him a job when he's unbanned. You get him, by the way, the greatest talent scout in the history of Danish Counter-Strike. And you say, you know what? Since I know it's a PR hit, but you're my coach now, so please go and find me the next Zipniks, the next whoever player, the next config. Find me that player before he has a 200k buyout, and let's get him in the team for 10k, 20k. Because the other thing that's a joke, and I'll just throw this out there, this also shows what a fucking joke the Astralis Talent Academy squad is. Because the joke is, they only use those players as like subs because you have to have 5 humans sat in chairs. They don't do it because they believe in Mister. He has no future in the team. They don't do it because they actually thought any of those guys can... The joke is, if you don't know, they're still not even the best talent squad, even though Denmark has the most raw talent of any fucking region and has a whole systematic sports approach where they've all been IGL'd and coached. Even after that, they can't get a single motherfucker into this lineup that would ever be in the team. This mental, mate. So I actually think this just exposes that, like, Astralis is in a really tough spot. They don't have money to spend, or they don't want to spend money, mate. Like, I struggle myself to even figure out, who would you get?
It's not easily apparent, that's for sure, especially because anywhere you go that's going to be worthwhile, it's going to cost you the bag. And that's one point that needs to be brought up as well, though, is like the config, getting config out of the roster couldn't have happened at a better time if you were trying to free money up. Because now you get him out of the roster, you cancel the contract, you agree to end the contract. All of a sudden, you have that money that instead of going.
Maybe that's why you bought device then. Maybe that also went to the device payment then.
100%
exactly.
It did. Like, because now all of a sudden it's like, okay, config is out of the picture. You have his salary freed up. He probably wasn't on a cheap salary. He was probably on a pretty decent salary. Now you put that salary towards device. Boom. It's not like you're having to pay for a device salary on top of everything. In fact, that may be the reason why things were taking as long as they were, is because they're just like, well, fuck, can we afford to have, a Glaive, a Zip, a Blame F, a config, everybody on tier 1, like...
Semmler, I'm saying this just like to set up the joke. I don't really mean it. So this part's just a rhetorical part. Tell me if I'm out of line on this, Semmler. What I would actually do, I've realized, it's a mixture of what could be done and what I would actually do to get results. Ends justify the means. Not to me, but that's the Astralis philosophy. I would right now go, you know what, guys? We haven't got tournaments for a while, and basically everyone's sort of on holiday. So you know what, Zip? Tell you what, mate, you've had a hard year. You and me, we're going on a tour of Mediterranean islands. And when I'm on these islands, I'm just going, you know what, Zip, drinks on me, mate. Have another one, Baileys. You like Baileys? You don't really like alcohol. Have a Baileys. Oh, they're delicious, aren't they? Have a fucking pina colada. There you go. Oh, I know it's getting a bit to your head, but don't worry about it. Listen, you're the clutch master. You can handle it. You can fucking navigate. I think that guy's talking shit to you. Fucking up. Mate, he's looking at your missus. He just called you a punk. And all I'm saying is, let's see if Zipnik can go 1-on-3. And if not, then I think we've taken care of that contract, haven't we? I think we've taken care of that contract, haven't we? That's all I'm saying. Again, tell me if I'm out of line. That's just a hypothetical.
I don't think you're out of line. I just find it like, I just can't imagine Zipnik's ever being in that kind of situation.
But here's the thing. To be fair, Semmler, when players get bad, they do try emergency things to switch things up, like copying other people's config.
There you go.
That wasn't bad. That was decent. That was half decent. This was a pun, but it's half decent.
And I mean, yeah, it does feel like it's at a bit of an impasse, and I might as well just check for the hell of it, just because it is the meme.
What are you looking?
Astralis share price, yeah, 2 crowns now, 2 Danish crowns, 2.01. They're pretty much just stabilized. Even after the device announcement, it didn't go up.
Actually, that thematically makes sense. They've got 2 crowns and they've only
rub
got
together.
2 kings in the team. They've got Glaive and Device.
In
They're the
fact,
only
it
2
dipped.
kings.
How did it go down when they announced device?
Because no one buys the dip. It's fucking Astralis in it. They're garbage. So
Yeah, I know. It's so tragic. So yeah, just
also, here's what fucks them as well, Semmler. There was even a world also
Mm.
where they could have freed up a load of money to make the moves they need in CSGO. You're going to get really annoyed if you're a fan of only CSGO. The rumor this year, Semmler, was they were going to be one of the teams that sold their LEC spot and maybe gave it to like K-Corp or something. Apparently now, because it's been said that the Astralis League of Legends players have renegotiated the contracts, that implies they're not selling out to K-Corp, so they're not going to free up the funds. If you don't know, that would have been like 30 million euros or something. Like that could have also been the pivot to get the CSGO team back on its legs, but it ain't happening. So if it isn't happening, there is no extra money, right? Because remember, this is where fans don't know.
News at 2 crowns a share. That's where I'm buying Astralis at that point. Like I'm just buying Astralis shares. If that news, if like the selling of the org or whatever, there's going to be a huge influx of cash or whatever. It's like maybe you kick in a bit. Just to give you guys context, January 2020, 8.88 Danish crowns per share. Now we're down to 2 years later, we're down to 2.01. So again.
At first, when you pulled up that stock graph, you thought you were looking at the HLTV like career graph for Zipnix.
Oh, there you go. Deeper and deeper into the red.
There you go. Whatever. Exactly.
It's only fitting that he ends at Astralis then, I guess. It's all just going to align together. It's a beautiful symbolism there.
Also, there's a real detail fans won't know. Remember, Semmler, Astralis, because they're publicly traded, are not like other teams. Certain other teams can absolutely operate in any way they want. They can have a bad year. They can spend too much money. If you are the Astralis, you literally, by the way, can get like sued by the fucking shareholders if they think you're doing a bad job, if you're like not spending the monies correctly, if you're not trying to make, by the way, this is why the config thing was big. If you're like ruining the image of the team, which might make the stock price dive even more if you don't qualify to the majors and all your deliverables you promised for the year and your expectations, like there'll be meetings, by the way, where people, it won't be Casper Hid, it'll be like their head exec people. They'll be having like fucking their own Monkus moment where they'll have to explain to these shareholders like what went wrong and what the plan for, which is another reason, in my opinion, why you buy a device. You're like, look, we brought back the player, because remember, all the stats look great on paper. The guy with the like 19 MVPs and 2 major MVPs, and he won 4 majors, and he was good, blah, blah, blah. He was top HLTV for 10 of those years. Which years exactly? And never mind that. He was top 20 on HLTV for 6 and 7 years, and also looks like Tom Cruise. Like, by the way, I will say, I wouldn't keep saying that looks like Tom Cruise, but Tom Cruise is about 60 years old now, so maybe. Like, why are we still doing that?
No, you listen, you better hope that you look as good as Tom Cruise at 60. Have you seen that sucker, dude, in fucking Top Gun? Holy shit. He looks amazing.
Here's the thing, mate, that ain't natural. I'm just saying.
Well, of course it's not natural. Yeah, dude, he's I wouldn't be surprised if he's going like the Peter Thiel way, or it's just like injecting, teenage blood into his veins. he's probably doing everything he can. But like, holy shit. Whatever they're doing, vampires are real. Tom Cruise is one.
All I'm saying is the joke is he's probably a really big fan of Astralis talent then. He's probably like, you know what? Actually, I do want to get involved with your org, but not, I can't actually do a Tom Cruise impression, whatever.
All right. We have one other big story for the night. And that is actually to just go over this Richard Lewis, and I'd love to hear your take on it as well, but like to go over this Richard Lewis 1-2 combination punch article on the whistleblower, the ESIC whistleblower, that started to make some waves last week. Came out, a whole list of names, long as your arm, players that were well-known, Hooksy, etc., and players that maybe, were under the radar, but mainly on Ukrainian and Russian side of things, Russian rosters. But this guy comes out of nowhere and starts accusing these players of match fixing and of using radar hacks and using cheats. And and so, the obvious reaction to this is like, okay, maybe we should give this a little bit of credence because, he apparently works with ESIC, and ESIC would have access to that kind of information. Somebody working at ESIC would, that kind of info would probably cross their desk. And so, if this guy's actually putting some accusations out there, there might actually be something to it. And so, fortunately, we still do have Richard Lewis in the scene. And so, when everybody is out there speculating, myself included, I was definitely one of those guys going like, I haven't heard of this guy before, but I mean, he works ESIC, so maybe there's some truth to this. Maybe there's something to it. I guess we'll wait and see, if there's any more information. Well, fortunately, Richard is in the scene, and he did provide us with more information. And if you want the TLDR of this, going through the two articles, I mean, it boils down to what sounds like that this guy may be a bit of a fraud, and that he was out there, trying to. I really appreciated this in the second article. Richard points this out in that he's noticed a trend over the years of when he's talking to people who might get burned and who admit that they've done wrong, that they don't want to go down for some small thing, and so they'll tend to aggrandize their actions so that if they go down, they're at least going to go down as like a big boss kind of type. You're not just some punk soldier, like you're out there making moves. And
I mean,
so
the most famous
the
cheating example ever, if people don't know, the way they caught Kaylee, Valve, actually updating Valve, VAC, was famously, there was that guy, SMN, like a German player or something, if you remember that, through ESEA, they'd found through the client he cheated, right? And they basically told Valve, this is how the cheats work. And Valve supposedly updated VAC and it caught Kaylee, right? So if people don't know, that was when a bunch of other cheat coders and cheater people who'd gotten caught didn't just say, yeah, I did it. They were like, yeah, I did it. And half of tier 1 does it, and this guy from Fnatic does it, and this guy from SK does it. And it's the same thing. It's like you're saying, they make it seem like, oh, I wasn't just some dickhead who installed cheats. No, there's a giant conspiracy. I'm at the bottom of it. You won't believe this. It goes to the very top. You're right. That's exactly the angle they sell to make, because they at least want to seem cool on the way out, not just like some idiot.
Exactly. Right? That's so it is a 2-part article. It's an excellent read. I highly recommend it. Richard really goes into detail, and he really gives you everything that you need out of this story. It's really solid, and it's a perfect follow-up, because for anybody out there who was kind of wondering I wonder what's going on, that's this is the kind of follow-up where Richard actually went and started talking to some of the people at ESIC. He went and started talking to some of the contacts that this guy mentions in past employers or past people he's had contact with. And then he talks to this guy himself, and he gives you the full breakdown of it. And so, quick skinny here is that this guy is a former employee of a betting website in which he developed his network of fixers and took part himself. And that's a key thing, is that he himself admits that he took part in, some of the scandals, or he himself, admits that he took part in some of the scandals. Now, whether or not this is corroborated is the point that Richard makes, in that it's kind of hard to put a finger on what this guy actually did, because a lot of what he claims to have done is publicly available information. And also what, the people he claims to have hacked, etc., is also coming through information that can't be corroborated, information that can't be backed up, information that's just, like he said, she said, or a text message, and not something that you can actually lock down an investigation on and really sink your teeth into.
By the way, because we're just unlucky, 2 hours ago, Richard actually released a third part to this story.
Of course. Shoot. Okay.
I put it in the chat there, but yeah, sadly he hasn't released it. Because basically, if you remember, one of the things this guy claimed when he was naming players, first of all, he named every bloody player who played for Copenhagen Flames. But one of the guys that was very interesting was he picked out that young Ukrainian 17-year-old prodigy who was playing for Spirit, Wonderful, who was the guy who replaced Dexter and has actually been looking pretty fucking good. So obviously, that's a mad salacious angle, by the way. That up-and-coming young, really good player that's way too good. He just was part of cheating on match fixing. Obviously, that's going to be fucking instant bait for everyone to take up in it.
And the article that just got released is on Wonderful. He takes a look at match-fixing allegations levied against Team Spirit's Igor Wonderful Zdanov. And so this is actually Richard following up specifically on Wonderful and the claims made about Wonderful. But that is the long story short is that this guy, I mean, there's also what's really nice is that Richard was able to capture a screenshot the long list, as well as there was a Russian podcast. This is where the one that really made waves, where it's a 3-hour podcast on a Russian podcast, where apparently he spends this guy spends 3 hours outlining point for point.
By the way, look at the screenshot of this guy. Because this guy just looks like the Russian Dave Portnoy. Look at the Yarabu guy.
He does, doesn't he?
He literally looks like, he's like, you know the rules, one bite. That's a reference, you know it. There you go. And unsurprisingly, he's trying to fuck a bunch of teenagers as well, allegedly, in a video game Minecraft.
Yeah, there
another reference. There you go.
Another fire one. But yeah, no, this guy, I mean, it seems like right now at least, it is not on top. And so apparently as well, when he was working at ESIC, so he manages to parlay all this information that apparently he's developed over the years to get a job at ESIC as a head of investigations. And so that's a no joke sort of situation. And so he's there on a trial period for 3 months, and none of his and he gets frustrated because none of his investigations are actually getting published. Nothing's being made public.
And why was that,
he
Semmler?
claims,
what was the reason why? Go on, hit me with it.
well, the reason why is that he claims that ESIC are frauds themselves, and that they don't actually, they're just here to money grab, and that they're not actually trying to do anything themselves.
That's where I can tell you, though, Richard in part 2 made a very key point there, because Richard essentially says, like, I'm not going to just take you at face value, mate. You have to, like, essentially show me hard evidence, like, show me what these people are. And what the guy literally says to Richard is something along the lines of, like, I think your standards for evidence are too high. Now, there's a very key point, which I made, again, on the last Free Nation CSGO podcast, Snake and Bant. There's a whole point about this, so I won't go the entire thing here. But the gist of it was this, Semmler. The guy's right and wrong. He is wrong in the sense that someone like Richard, you don't know who Richard Lewis is if you would ever say that line to him. Richard Lewis is someone who understands, this is a very key point, like, tangent for young men out there. One of the reasons you want to have principles and values, and that you want to live up to them and thus have integrity and be a man of honor, is because it actually helps you. You're going to think, no, it helps other people. Like, it helps the people I'm kind to, or the people I'm chivalrous to, the people. No, it helps you. It becomes a compass that keeps you on the right track in life. If you always follow certain code of ethics, if you never lie, if you never cheat people, if you never act unfairly towards people, it means you're never tempted to do it. Because in the moment you're about to do it, you go, it's like me. I famously say I have never lied in my entire professional career. You think there's not times when some player fucks with me and part of me just thinks like, I could just make anything I want? Oh no, I would never do that though. So I don't do it. And if I can't get you legit, if I can't go out there and really find a source that tells me something, I can't find evidence you did something, then I can make fun of you, but I can't lie. I'm not going to say something you didn't do. I'm not going to do what's simple and be like, I could just, when you retire, I'll reveal all the fucked up shit you've done. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep, and so the good thing for someone like Richard is he will never do that. He will never try to get the scoop by doing it with one source, or he'll never do the thing like, well, it's probably true. Let's be real. It's probably 90% true. So I don't really need to get confirmation. He will wait until he gets the perfect story set up. And by the way, in the meantime, that's why he'll lose stories. Someone else won't have the same standard. Someone else will just go, well, it seems like someone else in this case, and this is the really dodgy one, dude, someone else might go, I've also heard different stories that maybe that guy was dodgy or he cheated or he matched. So you know what? I'm going to be the righteous guy and I'm going to take him down. What ESIC couldn't do it, then they are frauds. I'm the punisher. I'm going to take him down. Richard won't do that. But here's the problem. Where the Yaraboo guy is right though, Semmler, is remember that article we always laugh about from a few months ago, maybe like a month ago, where Richard wrote that article where the gist of it was, you can't stop match fixing, it's too advanced and we don't have the evidence. So that guy's right. If you actually want to catch most of the match fixers and cheaters, you have to do it the same way. Are you ready? It's going to make people sad that we did it back in the day. Back in the day, what would really happen on ESEA and ESL is they would just look at a demo with a really experienced admin or even just a pro player and go, does he cheat? And by the way, if you really were like simple, bad luck, because it'll just look like you're cheating, won't it? So we're going to ban you, and you would just get a ban. You couldn't appeal it. We're just giving you the ban. We think you're cheating. And in that scenario, you have to actually go through other tournaments, play on LAN, and have years of your career. And eventually you can get it overturned. Or you do that thing where you wrote the letter, like, I'm sorry I cheated, and admit to it all, like do the rehabilitation. So basically, they're right. If you want to catch as many people as possible, and especially people who most likely did do it, Semmler, because there's loads of it going on, you have to actually have a very low evidentiary standard and just be willing to go off hearsay. The problem with that is, and this is where I'm going to quickly make the end of my point, I am of the school of philosophy that Voltaire was from, where he famously said, it is better to let basically like it's better to accidentally free a guilty man than to accidentally imprison an innocent man. I would never want to be the guy who went, look, I'm pretty sure he's just banned from the game. Because what about that one time it isn't? What about when it is Ziwu? By the way, do people forget?
Proven guilty.
I saw the Ziwu clips back in the day, that famous one on Cash, and it looked like he was cheating. It looked like, dude, there's no way this 16-year-old kid's just doing this to FPL player. He must be cheating. But the point was, if we'd have gone off what it seems likely, in 99% of cases, you'd be right. But you'd have been wrong in that case, and you would have denied that guy his whole career. So I'm sorry, I actually agree with Richard. And it's just why his original article was correct. You will not catch most match fixers. I would even guess, even if I suspect ESIC's a bit incompetent, but I also suspect, especially after that lawsuit from fucking Peacemaker, mate, they can't just be doing it on flimsy grounds. They have to have all their shit nailed down, because now people are even taking you to court, mate. Like, so in this scenario, like you said at the beginning, the problem is I get the vibe from the Yarabu guy that he has like some fairly legit info, or there's some grain of truth to it. But because he no longer works for ESIC, by the way, why is that odd? Because I'm a hero and I left it. Yeah, okay, homie, you weren't kicked or anything. You weren't a guy that just maybe wanted to like fire off like loose cannon style and get people banned and didn't follow it. Because that's what it could be. And then the other thing is this: where are all the people that vouch for you? There's only you, and you can't give us any evidence. Like, mate, this is supposed to be a giant conspiracy. There must be other people who can come forwards, right? By the way, where are the other players? Is there not another player or a former coach that can say, look, behind the scenes, I don't want my name going public, but I'll tell Richard Lewis, who never leaks sources. Like, where are they? That's the problem. These are the standards we've got to have, guys. We really do have to have this. Because otherwise, like I said, you can take the point from here, but philosophically, I'm totally against the principle of like, just like, you know, the famous one where they killed all the Cathars, like, just kill them all and let God decide. Like, that ain't my fucking philosophy in life. Like, again, because God has to decide, guess what? That means I don't get to decide for him on earth. He will decide at whatever point later in life, mate. On earth, I'm not here to be the judge, jury, and executioner.
In a video game.
I mean, I'm not here to be it, so it's fine for me. I can say it outside of the video game too. Yeah.
But no, I think you're bang on the money. And that is the standard that clearly, that is, if you want to follow the story in terms of the reasoning of this guy, where, you know, that is why he's no longer at ESIC, is because they didn't have low enough standards. Their standards were too high. So none of his cases were getting published because none of them met the evidentiary standards necessary to push that case forward. And so he's not at ESIC. And now he's just creating this storm in terms of like, it does seem very attention driven, right? Doing as many podcasts as possible, getting as much clout and as much internet attention as possible. It really does seem like it, because right now, if anything, this is a point I think that Richard brings up in an article, in one of the articles as well, is that this could be incredibly detrimental, because now this could force all of these match fixers to change their game up. He could be putting everybody on alert who's actually in this industry, saying, okay, you know, so there might be some leaks. There might be some ways that we need to adapt here to make sure that we're going to be even more difficult to catch now going forward, because there's this asshole out here who's kind of, you know, shooting his mouth off and drawing attention to us in a way that we don't appreciate. So already you're going to wonder about that guy. But just going forward, he might have made the job even harder, even more difficult. If he claims to want to shut this down, he may have made it even more difficult to shut it down, to shut it down in the end. So it really is just a tragic whole story going on here, and it's a 2-part, now a 3-part series, you know, put together here by Richard, just to go into detail on this, because of course Richard does have those standards, and so if Richard is going out of his way to go ahead and publish an article on the topic, you can probably trust his track record on it and run with it. So it's a shame that we didn't have the full 3-part picture going into the show.
No, he just keeps dropping it right where we're doing the show. That's the problem. The joke is Richard's doing to us now. I don't know if you know this, Semmler. We used to think we were paranoid, but actually eventually I think for real, no joke. Because you know, way back in the day, especially like 2017 and 2018, this show used to be like a mad fucking like a sort of like taste maker for esports and like what the CS scene thought. And I'm not joking. I actually think eventually the ESLs of the world started to drop their news while the show was live, because they knew we couldn't respond to it and that we would like let it go till next week. Because it was a clever approach. Like, I'm not joking. The amount of things that came out on the day of the show were mental, mate.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that Richard's pulling it as well now. Is that what's going on? Can't add that to the. I mean, I trust Richard. I trust Richard's judgment on this. I trust the work that he's done in the first 2 articles, and it does seem to me that he's gotten to the bottom of this. So I imagine that this third and potentially final article on the topic is going to be a banger. But good on him for fighting the good fight. Good on him for sticking in it. In this ESIC situation, I mean, it is what it is.
Also, I will just say, because you made this point earlier, when he implies, basically the guy who's the whistleblower implies he was involved with placing bets as well, right?
Pardon me?
The guy who was the whistleblower implies he did the crime as well. He placed bets on games that were rigged.
Yes,
Here's the problem.
Exactly what he implied in this.
Here's the problem that
he was
people
also
never
responsible for fixing stuff, and that he had a track record of fixing stuff.
Right, people never understand this, Semmler. You know, when someone comes forward and they go, I'm going to tell all the truth about what happened. Like, I was involved with the crime, so I know. Oh, so you're a criminal and a liar and someone who's not trustworthy. Then guess what? I don't believe you and don't trust you. What reason do I have? Like, in this particular scenario, by the way, you don't work for him anymore. You've got all sorts of reasons and motivations. So, unfortunately, like, it'd be one thing if you were like, look, here's the angle you want to go with, Semmler. I did work for ESIC, but I'm a really legit guy, and my whole life is I want to get rid of these match fixers. Now you got my attention. Oh, by the way, I was placing bets too. Well, I don't give a fuck what you say then, mate. You're a criminal. By the way, I hope you go to fucking prison or get some sort of Interpol shit on your ass. And then secondly, I no longer care. Like, no honor among thieves. Like, fuck off, mate. Fuck right off.
That's it. Yeah, that's the banger right there. All right, well, I'm starting to lose my voice here, so I think it may be a good time to turn to questions and start seeing what the GROGcoin guys have got going for us here. But also, guys, in case you're interested in holding coins like this, GROGcoins is a way to support the show, and also GROGcoins at the end of each show, you get some questions answered. So if you hold enough of the GROGcoins, you can pose a question of your own, and Thorin and I will answer them on the show at the end of it. Do you want to take a break real quick before we get into the questions, or are you good?
Yes, just do a quick 1 or 2 minute break.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break, guys. When we come back, we'll get into the questions.
If you've yet to take advantage of one of esports.bet's first-time deposit bonus, how about their classic 20% on up to 200 USDT? If that doesn't strike your fancy, they're still running their bet forgiveness where you can get up to 100 USDT back. You just make your first bet with crypto. If you lose, go to the mod mail, which you can message on the esports.bet Discord, discord.gg/esportsbet. Message the mod mail, say Thorin or Last Free Nation sent you, and they will refund up to 100 USDT. I would suggest what you do is you place it on an underdog, pick someone with 2 or 3 odds, maybe in the Blast Showdown. If you want to wait a week or so, you can do the major itself in the opening round. Pick someone that's an underdog. If they lose, obviously you get up to 100 USDT back. If they win, you get the multiplier and you're off on your way betting with crypto.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for being patient in the break. But we'll hop into questions now. Again, GROGcoin questions. So if you're interested in picking up any GROGcoin yourself, you can hop into the Discord. It'll give you the information necessary, and you can start asking questions of your own. But okay, we'll just jump right into it. Excuse me. It's Young Badger. Semmler and Thorin, who are the GOAT contenders for the analyst and general manager roles in Counter-Strike Global Offensive?
Right, forget analysts, because there's barely ever been any and no one really knows. So we'll do, he just means coach and general manager, he said?
Coach, no, contenders for analyst and general manager. I mean, I guess maybe he's mixing
really general managers
coach together.
I think he means that, because the problem is, because remember in European like football, soccer, they call like manager, coach. It's the opposite role,
okay.
You know, and like the coach basically is the manager in football. So
okay, we can go with that.
Because the problem is for general manager, there aren't any mates. Like the joke is that I've just spent the last 2 years explaining there fucking aren't any. They're dickheads from Overwatch and League of Legends who go, I'm going to hire this guy for Evil Genius. It's not called Cassad. Like, so if you want to go for coach, I mean, it's a pretty simple short list. And it's like Zonic, Blade, Zeus. Who else? Because we're talking like goats here. There's not many more guys. There's not many more that were really that great. Who?
Peace.
Who? Peacemaker.
Gonna go with Peacemaker. You know, he's just been around.
He's
everywhere.
a meme. Oh yeah, I mean, my joke used to be on By the Numbers. I'll bet he fucking is really good the first few months. He's got all the anti-strats. He was in every other team. That's the old joke. Whatever.
That is the joke. That is the joke.
Yeah.
Actually, from the GM side of things, so like the manager side of things, the name that springs to mind is Nyak. Like he's just been. I mean, to be fair, he comes from the French scene, so it's much more. It's probably been more the players calling the shot than,
as far as I know,
him being.
His job is just to be very well liked by the players and be able to like fix relationships. He's not really like going, I think we'll sign Monastery.
No, I don't think so
this
either.
year. Like
it's just
like
from the
Carlos
manager side of things. I'm just like, I mean,
I'll give you one more
guys
name.
who have managed teams from start to finish almost. I mean, Yak has probably got
the
longest manager role.
I was going to say like Threat or something, but he's just said like GOAT content. Like Threat isn't contending with fucking Sonic, mate. So it's those three names. Just keep it at those three.
Yeah. And I mean, if you really wanted to go with it, like you'd have to really, because otherwise you're going with intangibles, but you'd have to probably go with results. And in which case, you know, Zonic is probably going to take he's probably going to take the title, isn't he? He's got the major champs. He's got the major tournaments. I mean, Zonic has got the results to back up claims to the role of GOAT coach. It's probably the easy. I mean, it does feel like that's an easy one. Casco's got a good point. James Banks as coach and manager, also top contender for sure. But I don't know. Who do you have Zonic as well in terms of?
I'd probably side with
coach?
Zonic for now. I do think you can make a case for Zeus, but I'd probably go with Zonic for now. I think
I feel
Blade still has to do a little bit
needs
more.
More majors. If you get more majors, then you're going to be there.
No,
Oh,
because
no,
look
not
at the
Zeus,
teams
not
he
Zeus,
had.
not Zeus. For whatever reason,
Blade.
I'm thinking like Ukrainian Zeus, and then I'm thinking Blade. You know, it's like no, okay.
No, I
Yeah.
agree. I think the problem with Blade is it just hasn't been long enough. Like, remember, we only just got back to land now, so yeah, I think you need look in the next year or two. His case will be built potentially. The difference is,
Yeah.
I think it's between Zonic and Zeus, and Zeus is more like the Carragher versus Glaive angle. He just did it a different route to everyone else with all the different teams. It's more that angle. It's not raw accomplishments.
It's true. All right, Zumba. What if Brazil is just one big closet?
He means because of the whole 23+1 thing and the fact that, like, essentially their entire humor is like, look, we don't just like gays, but like, lol, you're gay, you're gay. It's like, that's like that's the only joke they know. It's mental, innit? I know, it's just fucking mental. And then their whole thing, Semmler, is this. Haha, look at this picture of Vampeta. That makes you gay. Like, you're the one sending me it. And apparently you've got it saved on your hard drive. Like, that's why Richard also had another banger tweet. You saw the tweet he made where he just said, like, ESL's doing it wrong if this man doesn't come out and present the trophy. Like,
yeah. But it really is that, dude. It just reminded me of. I tried to explain that to some Brazilians at the gym the other day because they just weren't getting why I was saying like Brazilian fans can be some of the worst, but also it's like why do they have all the gay porn? You know, because like they just send you the gay porn. And they're like, well, that's not like that. It's not, no. Like, why is it that is this a cultural thing that you guys all just walk around with gay porn in your phone and you just send that to people you disagree with online? Is that like a cultural thing that we're missing? Because that just keeps happening. And these guys are just like, what? What are you talking about? Don't even get there. All right. Architect of Korean esports based Joe. Which one do you think we have more of, stars who are 90% as skilled as Simple or IGLs who are 90% as knowledgeable as FNS?
the problem with that is he made it a meme, didn't he? Because FNS
He
is
did
just
make it a
like,
meme, didn't he?
Yeah, if he'd have said like Glaive, it would be like an interesting angle, but
Well,
it's
let's
one of those ones where it's not a real question. He just wanted to get you to read that out loud, and he succeeded, and he paid for it. So whatever. I guess in this case, we're just some fucking degenerate stripper who's like, oh, I'll show you my arse then for $50. Oh, bloody hell! Shall I put it on the glass? Oh, fucking! I don't know if I want to live this life anymore. I don't know if the money's worth it. You know, refund this cunt. I know, the fuck. Why are we doing that? I know. Whatever, we read it out now. It's too late, isn't it? I know. So. And by the way, I know people are always going to make that claim, like, oh, the margins are so small in CS. No, this is how you know the margins aren't small when it comes to Simple. Like, he had a down year for him in which he couldn't see his mom for months and months and was away from his country that's in like a literal like war zone / conflict right now. And he still was the best player in the world, posting good numbers. Like, there aren't players 90% as skilled as Simple. That's why he's the GOAT.
That's precisely it. You can have actually, was that not actually that was Maniac bringing that up the other day. That was really interesting, right? In terms of like T-side rating being the hidden rating right now in terms of most impact, and it was just like Simple and Zywoo, and then everybody else.
The drop's insane after that.
The drop is just right off a cliff, and you're like, huh, okay, interesting. It just goes to show that those guys, those two, really are in a world of their own. They are just freaks. They're just uncontested freaks. It's amazing. All right. Kunopa, what is your single greatest source of joy? That
clip of Pronax saying pure joy.
Pure joy.
Pure joy. By the way, unironically though, I will say, I'm not a super sentimental guy. Well, like, I'm for esports. I like to take the romance and the narrative stuff, but I'm not the guy, like, you know this, Semmler. Even when like Device, who was like one of my favorite players ever, even when he won like the major, I didn't cry or anything. I just went like, brilliant for him, and then just fucking went on and laughed at Moses losing and just went on my life. Like, but I will say, every time, no joke, I actually did see Pronax's smile. You know, that joke where like, it could kill cancer. It actually does, genuinely, it's an infectious smile. When you see it, she makes it, oh, there's light in the world, isn't there? Yeah. Cool.
That is definitely.
So in CS, there's a good one. I mean, he means in real life. What in real life brings you joy, Semmler?
No, in real life, come on.
Family.
Family is the obvious one. the barbell working out.
Like, no, that's a good one. Yeah.
You know,
by the way,
like, that's
if
pretty
people
much
don't
like
know,
I can drop everything. Like I know that like right now it's just working out. And I'll say working out in general because just like if you can go to the gym, you may be like mega depressed or mega dark or whatever, but if you go and you actually just get in there and just like do something, like lift some weights or roll or whatever, you will 100% feel better afterwards.
It's pretty much a guaranteed feel good afterwards.
Yes.
Even if you don't complete it all, even if you do like 75% and tap out, you're just for going, you're going to feel like, I feel so good. I did it. And I got through the first part. And now, oh, by the way, you also get all the fucking feelings of the endorphins. Like, fuck, I'm feeling nice. You get that. I know the next day you might have the delayed onset muscle fucking pain or whatever, but you don't in the moment. In the moment, you're getting flooded with all the shit. Like, awesome. I feel great.
Yeah, it's pretty much 1-to-1. There's a lot of mentions of dog like dog. No, I mean yes, obviously, but
Here's
also
the problem,
the little
Semmler.
bast just chewed up one of my books. So
Semmler, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to say this now. Look, you might like your dog, but this is a dark thought, guys. Right? One of the reasons why the birth rate is so low is because they've psyoped you with American Hallmark movies into thinking your dog is your child, treating an animal that genuinely, look, on some level, it does like you. I don't know if dogs really experience love. Like, I would suggest, if you know how they work, you know, I always say religion was overwritten in the human brain with things like atheism and ideologies and like woke philosophy. And they just overwrote the circuits. In a dog's brain, it models the world as a pack. It is a pack animal. So what happens when you get a dog is you're the pack leader. Hence, it looks to you for guidance and leadership. And it will lick you and it will do things like groom you. And also, your hands, if they're sweaty or they're going to have salt on them. I love that. You're thinking, he loves me. Look, that's not the way his brain works. Like, he might not even be able to process the existential components that we're talking about. But within his own world, yeah, in the same way as he adores his pack leader and will follow him, he likes you. But I will say this, if you're making it like, it's my little fur baby, I'm a little... Come here, little boy. Like, that's, you actually, I'm sorry to tell you, you really want a human child. And by the way, a human child would probably bring you infinitely more love. But your problem is you've replaced that with a fucking animal, which, by the way, on some cynical level, is going to die in like 10 years in it. So, like, you're on some you're already in the, like, Bezos fucking Elon Musk nightmare dystopia future where you're like, what's my next one going to be? Like,
exactly.
That's why, you know, all those people, I've seen too many people say it, Sam, like, I don't want children. I don't have that impulse. And then the rest of their fucking Instagram feed is like, oh, little baby. Like, that is a child, you're behaving like that. So I think that whole thing's dark as fuck. And if you're on the chat like, no, I just love my dog. Like, yeah, because guess what? There ain't anyone else to love, is there, homie? This is called rock bottom, son. Like, you need to get your shit together. As he said, it's a dog. Look, dogs are brilliant in their own way. Like, it ain't a child. It ain't a human. And if you're going to do that thing where you're really going to go like, but he loves me unconditionally. First of all, we don't know that he loves you. You haven't accessed his brain. And secondly, if you're at the position where all you can get in life is like, I just need unconditional, you genuinely actually sound like you're really damaged, and you need to like address what you're damaged for and learn how to like have human relationships where, yeah, they're not just going to unconditionally love you out the gate. Spoiler, if you're a man, that's just the way life is. There's no like, but it shouldn't be. No, there's no shouldn't. It's reality. That's the way reality has always been for men and always will be. So accept it. Level up, make yourself stronger, get yourself to the point where you don't break when someone rejects you, when you don't just go, oh, but if you can't just love me at my worst. By the way, that is the wackest line ever. No one would love you at your absolute worst. By the way, you wouldn't love yourself at your absolute worst. That's how human psychology works. You love people because they do bring value to your life, because they make you feel better, because they're the people you can rely on, you can reach out to, you can work together. These are all great things. So make yourself someone like that and you'll be able to get loads of great relationships, have friends and fucking relationship, have like a lover, have children that you could find joy in. So yeah, that whole thing of like, but my little dog, like, they're all like the guys who basically, this is the last line I'm going to say, it's going to hurt you all so badly. When you do that, like, oh, my little dog, you actually make me sick in the same way when I saw that pathetic piece of shit guy who saw that like Star Wars trailer, like, Obi-Wan, like, that's you with your fucking dogs, you twats. Just fucking get over it. It's just some Snoopy shit. It's a 3-panel comic. Yeah, it's cool. It's a dog. Brilliant. That's in Best of the Numbers at some point in the future. Don't worry about it. Thorin versus dogs. There you go.
This will get edited into the next one. There you go. And on that note,
whatever.
Hey, BZ.
You love dogs, though. They are brilliant, aren't they?
Hey, dude, dogs are awesome. Don't get me wrong. But yes, I am like, it's not like he is my child or something.
No, exactly.
Like, no, he's my dog. He's a bro. He's cool. There you go. All right, BZ. Players like Shocks can play off of intuitive feel. Okay, hold on. Blah, blah, blah. Players like Shox can play off of intuitive feel for the game and have had careers in multiple iterations of Counter-Strike. Do you believe players are able to translate said feeling between different games or genres? MOBA RTS. Also, was there or would there ever be an IGL that could lead intuitively without explaining why? Okay, well, two questions. The obvious one to go off of here, well, there's two obvious ones, but I guess one actually did it professionally, right? Where it's Elige. Going from StarCraft into
He wasn't a pro. Look, like
he wasn't a pro.
Here's the good news for you and Pimp and everyone else in CS:GO. I'm actually going to do a video on this topic where I'll explain to you who he was. First of all, think it through. He was like 15 years old. How was he?
Okay, so he wasn't a pro. No, I'm just.
He was like he was like a low semi-pro. Like he played in like open brackets that like pros win, but he wasn't like an MLG coming 10th or something. You know what I mean? Like that's always overblown.
That's the thing. During that whole period, like I may not have been following StarCraft or whatever.
He wasn't, dude. Even if you'd followed StarCraft, you wouldn't know this guy's name. You would not have known his name.
You have guys like that though, you know, where it makes you wonder. I guess Forrest is the other one that always makes you wonder. Where it's like he himself mentioned the fact that he was interested perhaps in going into Dota instead of Counter-Strike, right? So it's just like, you know, could he have is he good enough to have played another game professionally at a high level, or is it just Counter-Strike for him? I do feel like there are some pros like that could have they could legitimately swap from one genre to the other.
Yeah, but here's the problem. When you say swap, think about this. Dude, Neo, for most top players, is the GOAT of 1.6. And he wasn't even ever top 10 in CSGO. And that's just a quite similar game, bro. That's almost like the same game with different, like, engine, right? The idea you're going to swap between, like for a FPS to an RTS. Here's the thing. Maybe you could swap and be like the 150th best player. By the way, that's pretty good. 150th best in the world in a different game. But you're not going to be like whoever you were in this game. So if simple swaps, spoiler, I don't think he would be the GOAT of Valorant. I think he'd be like the 20th best player in Valorant. Which, if he wants to do it, he can do it. But no, I actually don't think that. Because here's the thing. The only people, and it's very long time ago, were the Fatalities of the world. Fatalities switched many different FPS games. And he's played in team FPS games. He even played Counter-Strike briefly, right? If you don't know, that wouldn't be to fit the premise of the question, like Shox, who just rolls out of bed and owns in games. Fatality did it by being the hardest worker in the world, knowing how to practice, how to get like boot camp with people, how to peak at events. Like, essentially, he did it by hard work. He didn't just do it by raw talent. So no, the real problem is this. It'll sound a bit weird, but this is the premise, right? These guys didn't know they were good at Counter-Strike. What happened was we didn't know them either. So we just set a filter of this is what being good at Counter-Strike is. They happened to make it through because they had a mixture of talent and hard work. And so now we know they're good at Counter-Strike. They can't just sit down and go, I'm going to choose to be good at this other game. No, because essentially it was a game they loved initially and just had a natural affinity to in some way. So I don't think you can do it like that. I mean, by the way, it's the same in sports. You're not just going to play like fucking soccer and then go, actually, you know what? Fuck it. 110-meter hurdles. Like, yeah, you might be able to do it and be like the 400th best. You're not going to be in the Olympics, are you? You're not going to win the gold medal. Like, he's just doing some romantic thing where it's like, I just have a talent for games, man. Like, no, you don't. You're just good at CS. Shut the fuck up.
There you go. It's go. How have you dealt with food poisoning? Well, usually it's a messy affair.
Yeah, I just usually shit all over my porcelain toilet. And then go, oh, bloody kebab.
There you go.
Probably go KFC tonight or whatever, you know. Yeah, it's always the kebab, mate. Mate, I'm not joking. Actually, 90% of food poisoning I've ever has come from kebabs all around the world, mate. Just saying.
Just what? Because it's like cheap shit meat and all
that.
Yeah,
of course. It's logical. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most likely food to have like a parasite on it, or, you know, the hygiene's not going to be fucking perfect, is it? Like, so, and also you're eating it when you're all bloody drunk.
Yeah, exactly.
Delicious garlic sauce. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, why? What? Oh, it must be something. Oh, I think I'm ill. No, you've just fucking eaten chili sauce, haven't you?
There you go. Let's not trash the food of the gods. Get out of here, Carv. Trashing the food of the gods. All right. Although, to be fair, like, that is probably one of the best drunk foods out there, period.
Oh, it is. That's the problem, dude. That's the nightmare you're locked into. You never do it when you're sober. You know the effect it had, but when you're drunk, the joke is, like, this is how you know you're a gamer. It's supposed to be women that have this effect. You know, the more that you drink, oh, she's getting hotter, I might go and talk to her. No, it's more like, I'm starting to really feel like I'll have a kebab after this. Like, that's how gamers get drunk. And like, oh, I'm dead. You know what? I'm going to make a mistake. I'll probably regret Semmler. All right, what's her name? Double Donna. Like, fucking. Exactly. There you go. No
right,
boomage.
Jerky's Minion, shout out. What concert did you go to that just blew your expectations out of the water
I want to know
and
your
just
answer.
killed their show to a whole new level?
What's your answer? What's the best live gig you've ever seen?
I'm not much for live gigs, to be fair. I never really went to the one that I'll give you two. One was Mark Farina. He was a one of the first guys who did house DJ, one of the first house DJs, and he was much better on his albums than he was live. Like live was a letdown, but his albums are just amazing. Mushroom Jazz, all that, like just fucking top shelf shit. Back then, it was just like so good. You'd listen to him over and over and over again. The one that blew my mind, or that was just really fucking good, was actually DeAntwoord. DeAntwoord live was sick,
fair enough.
but you know, it was just sick. It was like a really sick concert. Just everybody was hyped.
Yes, brother. Yes, brother. Whatever,
but then that was
ninja,
it.
Good ninja.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
That was it, and that was how long ago, dude. I can't.
To be fair, by the way,
this
is a mad self-indulgent.
Listen,
this is a mad self-indulgent reference. Nobody else is going to get, except maybe one or two really faithfuls like Jerky's Mini might know, but don't say the name. Semmler, the girl in DeAntwoord does look like someone Swedish we know. That's a fucking call and a half.
What?
Look, I'll type it in the chat there. Look up the woman that's in DeAntwoord and tell me it doesn't look like her.
Shit.
It does. She could be that person, Semmler. That's mental, isn't it?
Get the
That's
fuck
a shout.
out of here.
That's a shout, though. That is a fucking shout.
Okay, that is a shout. Not worth it. No, yeah. Okay.
You don't get to know. I'm sorry, fans. That's a private. That's sort of like fucking green room material there. By the way, shall I tell you mine?
Go for it.
Because I agree with you. I'm also, first of all, I'm not a live music person. And also, this will sound weird, but because I'm autistic, I actually don't like when things are like slightly different. If something's slightly off, it sounds wrong to my ear. So I actually like it, as fucked as this sound. Like the sad thing is, I've been fucking the Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos dystopia of like, I want it just like the CD every time in my ear. Like, I do want it to, because it's like a little grooves in my brain where I want the notes to hit like fucking Guitar Hero perfectly, right? So normally I hate live music because first of all, in the modern day, all music is just fucked with the auto-tune and stuff. So most musicians aren't that good live. And even when they're trying to like improv, a lot of them aren't like some amazing jazz player. They're just going to do a worse version. Like famously, as much as I do like Metallica, if you do listen, like a lot of the guitar solos, they just sound worse when they're live because he can't hit all the fucking. He used the wah-wah pedal a lot if you don't know in Metallica. So he's not going to hit that perfectly on the win, is it? Like, it's one thing if you're David Gilmour or something, like some god tier guitarist. So the one thing I'll say is this is how you know, though, that this band really was amazing live. It was when I went to see Tool in Amsterdam, and they actually were, no joke, unfucking believable. Like even the songs that were slightly different, it was like just really good, mate. Their mastery over their instruments was really impressive. Yeah. It actually was banging. I've told this story before, though. Sadly, I had some guy next to me. This is just my luck, innit? Some guy next to me. You think about it, I'm a pretty fuck-off, standoffish guy, like, don't even look at me and talk to me. I had some guy came on his fucking dolo on his own, sat there next to me and had eaten a fucking edible before the show. And so just kept, even when I wasn't even paying attention to him, just kept turning to me and talking as if we were fucking friends from war. Just telling me, like, and you know, the lyrics to this song were meant to be when he was growing. Like, I'm just going like the whole time, like, all right, yeah. Now I'm just going to talk. What do you think of this track? Like the whole time, please. And because I know this guy's on edibles, I don't want to just turn around and go, will you shut the fuck up? You're fucking trying to watch that. I paid like €60 for this. So the whole time I think, if I just ignore him enough, he might eventually get lost in the music. Like, no, man, I couldn't handle it. So listen, that's how you know how good this gig was. It was genuinely a really amazing gig, even with that fucking dickhead nattering on in my ear. It's like that hater thing on CSGO. Like I wanted to mute the casters, like, please stop, shut the fuck up. Like, I couldn't handle it, mate. I couldn't do it, mate. He was just on his own, though. So lonely.
This goes to show how considerate you are, though, because you could have totally destroyed that guy's trip, that guy's high.
I could have, yeah. No, dude, the joke is I should have just leaned in and gone. It's just a shame the reptilians are going to fuck us all to death in the end. And he'd be like, and he'd just go, wouldn't he? I heard Maynard's one of them. He'd just be lost in the fucking he'd be in like the Infinity Gate sequence in 2001.
Just let it just him sprinting out of the venue. Someday. You're so fucking right though about certain I'm the same way with okay, so I can give you one example. It's like Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. You play that out on the piano, right? I had one recording that I listened to over and over and over and over and over again, to the point now where it's like if I listen to any other, it's not right. Like I just can't listen to it. It's not the recording. And that, there's certain songs like that it just fucking ruins the song if you hear it done in any other way, because it's like, no, it's not right though. It's not the way. Like I can totally relate on that one. All right. Cheesecake enthusiast. Fuck yeah, dude. What is your favorite Halloween costume that you have worn?
I'll tell you something, because this is like classic Thorin by the numbers material. Like, back in the day, Richard put those videos up on his YouTube channel where it was me at events, like eating the food, like, what the fuck is this shit? Oh, what the sausages are so horrible, because I am just like, in my own way, if I don't like things, I don't give a fuck about just telling people. So I have lots of mad, unreasonable opinions, right? I used to be the guy, this is how low effort I take Halloween. I would be the guy where, when you're going out clubbing on Halloween, everyone's like, oh, dress up and all that. I would just do the whack thing, like, just wear a slightly different blazer and be like, oh, I'm some guy from like an 80s movie, and then just go to the bar. Yeah. Who gives a shit? Like, I'm not dressing up as like some crazy shit. And so I would just do whack shit like that. Like, oh yeah, I'm fucking, I don't know. I'm like Michael Sheen out of fucking, what's his name? Oh, fuck. What's the name of the actor who was Kirk Douglas's son? Michael Douglas. I'm like Michael Douglas out of the game, which means he's wearing a suit. And then you go, right, double vodka, please. Like, I would just do a whack ones. You must have had a good one over the years. Did you ever do some gaming shit, some Dota or something?
No, I never did. The only one that I can think of was back when I was like, I don't know how old I was, 7 or 8 or whatever. I went as Edward Scissorhands. And so had the gloves. We put little cardboard like pieces, like sewed the cardboard pieces onto it to make the scissors.
People missed the actual best line of the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. The best line, because it was such a mad non sequitur. Do you remember when she just tried and made that impassioned speech, and she goes, and this is a man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers. It's like, nah, he just played a movie role, though, wasn't he? Like, no, he didn't though. Like, no, I want to go Amber. Listen, that's a reach. That's a reach and a half, love. Like, no, he didn't. Have another mega pint and shut the fuck up.
Dude, not even. That's a good one, Ghostler. That's a good one. Yeah, no, dude. Like Edward Scissorhands as a kid, that was pretty much it. Because I had a lab coat and I had it was like easy because I had a wig and a lab coat, So I was like, okay, you do that scene where he's got the lab coat, you dress in black underneath, you do the gloves. There you go. That's all I can remember, dude. Like I'm the same. Like Halloween has been mega low effort for me.
By the way, I tell you, if you're talking about music, the Danny Elfman soundtrack to that movie, especially that like music that plays at the end when it's like his love's like frozen or whatever, that is mad haunting. That's a fucking soundtrack and a half, mate. Look it up. That's haunting. Danny Elfman. Right. Shout out. Oingo boingo.
All right, so Blaz, if you could pick any director ever to make a Counter-Strike movie, who would you pick and how do you think they would approach it?
To me, there's an obvious one, but I want to see where you're going to go on this. Let's see what are you going with.
Well, I mean, it's about planting bombs and just firefights and shit. I was actually just thinking like Ridley Scott for whatever reason.
I mean, he's just a very good action director, right?
So he's a very good action director, exactly. And you would just want a banger action director. Yeah. Like I was like, for whatever reason, that is pretty much the reason why. I'm just thinking of like Batman and all the other shit that he's done. Like, it's like, yeah, Ridley Scott probably.
Batman? No, not Ridley Scott.
No, he didn't do Batman. He did what? Aliens. He did.
Yeah, Alien. He did a Black Hawk Down and that. Yeah, he
there you go, Black Hawk Down. Yeah, that's it.
Ridley Scott's Batman. In Gotham, no one can hear you scream. I had a similar thought though, because here's the thing. To me, the go-to guy, assuming we're trying to make it like realism and show like tactical units, in my opinion, the best ever depiction on camera of like guns, it's the movie Heat by Michael Mann. It's just so fucking flawlessly executed. It still keeps it within the story, but it has like enough of the realism to make it all legit. And you do believe like, oh, that is actually how, yeah. I mean, everyone has that, but aside from that, it's like, mate, it's a movie. You can't, you're doing the thing that people used to do. When they went in CS. In CS, when you get shot in the leg, your leg should be broken. Like, that sounds like the least fun game of all time, guys. That'd be terrible, wouldn't it? I know. Obviously, the joke is Config would just get traumatized, wouldn't he, if he played that game? At least we're getting some fun out of it anyway, to be fair. Someone's gonna turn it into some light
terrors and shit. We're over here cracking jokes.
To be fair, he always was good on Terrorcide.
They just keep going. Oh, fucking A.
Yeah.
All right,
fair
Michael
enough.
Mann is good. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was anybody else that would really like. We'll leave it at that. All right, Santiago Lafarga. There is a general trend in esports games where, throughout the years, core gameplay mechanics are watered down, making the game less hardcore. For example, CS 1.3 to 1.6 to CSGO, StarCraft Brood War to StarCraft 2, Quake 3 to Quake Live to Quake Champions, Smash Melee to Smash Ultimate, and even Dota to League of Legends. Yes. Why does this happen? In an ideal world, what features would you bring back to CSGO to make the best possible version of competitive Counter-Strike?
To me, the answer's pretty obvious. It's that those games that you're loving at the beginning, notice how long ago all those games were. Dota was in the 2000s. Counter-Strike came out like 1999. Quake, the original two Quakes were in the late 90s. Quake 3, I think, was 1999 or 2000. And Quake Live was just Quake 3, but many years later. Basically, the short answer is the gaming scene itself was tiny. Esports was a tiny, tiny fraction of that, even of competitive. And so the problem is, it wouldn't be played by as many people as play League of Legends, like 100 million or something. They wouldn't play it if it was Quake. You all know if you try and get someone into an old game like that, they play it once and go, what the fuck? I lost 20-1 against you. This isn't fun. Whereas if they play Counter-Strike, they go in a DM server. I shot the guy in the back. Oh, wow, this is fun. So the problem is, that's how you get mainstream appeal. So even though, yeah, I like Quake World and fucking super hardcore games you play on 8 ping that everyone's been playing for 22 years or whatever, but like most people don't. That's actually like the equivalent of liking really weird jazz music in some club in Luxembourg. Everyone else is in a fucking Katy Perry, aren't they? So unfortunately, if you want to be super mainstream and sell 10 million records, you better be Katy Perry, aren't you? And what we got in the modern esports games is something akin to Katy Perry. Don't know why she's my go-to reference. That's what a boomer I am. I think Katy Perry's really popular now in like 2022 because I tapped out on music that was mainstream about 20 years ago, guys.
And a lot of these games are currently, spazzing out due to, cosmetics that are it's detrimental, some would say. Did you see that clip of her, like her eye, like closing and all that? I mean, yeah. Botox, it seems like, right? It's like people are trying to make it sound like it's the coof, but it was
right. I didn't even get that. I just assumed
the good angle that I heard I was just like, holy shit, okay. Was I just
assumed the circuit was firing Botox, off.
They can hit a nerve, and if they hit a nerve, if they fuck it up basically and inject it in the wrong place, they can literally hit a nerve, which will then fuck with your face.
I thought it looked more like one of those scenarios where like some circuitry was going off and she was like pushed it back in like.
Yeah, okay.
Perry Butt is activated to make
her song
music.
is written by AIs after all. Like her music is, pretty much all mega popular music now is just written by AI, anyways. So
definitely
there you go.
Not the devil, though. Definitely not the devil.
Absolutely not. No connections there. Why does it happen? In an ideal world, what features would you bring back to CSGO to make best possible version of competitive Counter-Strike? I mean, this is where you have your own biases as well, where like I would revert the economy back to make it less forgiving again. Keep everything else the same, just make the economy more unforgiving again, just to add that weight instead of every round being a fucking buy round. But again, it's just the way that things go. Like things also, it's all fun and games to have a small game where you make it and it appeals to a small niche. But when the name of the game, especially when you have investors, is you need to make money hand over fist year on year, then you're going to lower the bar to entry. You're going to lower the barrier to entry naturally over each iteration of your game. And so that's how you wind up with LoL. League of Legends, it's like people found Dota to be hard. So then they made League of Legends. Oh, now it's more accessible. Then they made the support role. Now you have women who can play video games too, because they can just run around trying to heal you instead of actually having to do anything. So, it's every little trick that you can get into the game to keep people interested and keep people hooked. And that could mean lowering the bar or finding different ways for them to play. But, that's always been, to me at least, that's one of the major reasons why you have fewer females playing Counter-Strike. It's just because you don't have an easier out. It's like everybody needs to hit headshots. And if you don't hit headshots, well, you're going to struggle. So that's just the barrier to entry is still pretty high, I think, in Counter-Strike, games like Counter-Strike. Whereas, you have other games, WoW, League, whatever, where, you can have a little bit of a lower barrier.
And also, as you alluded to, I just don't think it fits into what women want from games as far as I can tell. Like, it's not a joke. We've all had women in our lives who played games. They played stuff like Farmville or fucking Pokemon or some shit. Or if they played a game, like you say, they play us with some friends in League. They play support, like the fucking Nami, and they heal you as you're the ADC, shooting everyone. Like, CS doesn't have that, as you say. CS is just a hardcore attack FPS game. Spoiler, men like war and like going and hunting shit and shooting stuff. Like, no one's stopping women going and do that stuff. It's just there's not many of them like it. So I think they just have different needs and different desires from games, and that's why they play the games they play, whatever the fuck it might be. It's just not CS, is it? So I don't really give a fuck about that angle. I wouldn't. Here's the thing, as I say, don't do what I say, because I would just change CS to be like the old versions of CS, but that would also make it incredibly unpopular, and then just like COD or something would take over, wouldn't it? So they probably shouldn't do that. And even my wallet's going, yeah, I don't know, Thorin, maybe we just chill with this for now, keep enjoying all them 6 figs.
Wow. There's more players playing Dota 2 right now than there are Counter-Strike for the first time in ages.
I mean, that's just ended TI. Yeah, everyone's on that high. Look, we all do that. You know that moment where you watch the game, Semmler, and you watch like Simple Play or something, you're like, fuck, I'm going to play some CS. And then you load in and someone's Ferrari picks you in the head and you go, I'm not Simple. Close the game down.
Exactly.
Because it just goes away so quickly, that fleeting feeling. I know.
Okay, is CS still 700,000 concurrent players right now? Current players, peak players, 1 million? You know, still peaking over 1 million. Like, CS is still rock solid. Good on them. All right, let's try a different question here. Hinoda, what would you say to a friend who says they don't want kids?
We just had the whole thing there. Do you have a dog? If so, refer back to that full rant I made about dogs, and then you actually do want kids, spoiler. And if you don't, here's the thing. There are some people who in theory don't, but I think I've got an angle for you here. You know, in the same ways, you can't possibly know if you'd want to be married if you've never dated people and had a long-term relationship with them. You wouldn't actually know. Like, you can't know what would it be like to be. Like, you have to essentially experience it sort of to know, oh, this is good, right? In the same sense, I don't think you actually can know. Like, I don't want to shot. Well, how do you know? Remember, there's chemicals go off in your brain. There's responsibilities you're going to take on that'll have their own satisfying element. I think you can't really know. I think that's why in life, everyone has some sort of an impulse, unless you've had your test levels dropped by all the shit in the West. Everyone has some impulse to at least go for it. And if you go for it, I think you just figure it out as you go. So I don't think you can know. Anyone saying that, I think, by the way, I think that's human hubris and arrogance to go, I know that I don't want this experience I've never had.
That too. But also there's also all the programming that goes against it now.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like from a very young age, you know, it's like, oh, get out there and get a career, and, you know, don't have kids until you're ready. And I was victim to some of these as well.
You're going to destroy the climate if you do. All that shit.
Like, oh no, you don't have kids until you're ready. You have everything lined up. You know, you have your money and you have all that and blah 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 blah. You know, it's like all of these barriers that keep just pushing the date back and back and back. And that's definitely one of those things where it's just like, or you don't, because there's a lot of people who are coming out now and who are just saying like, yeah, actually kids aren't that expensive. You know, like at the early dates, obviously when they start wanting cell phones and shit, like maybe that's a different story. But like at the early age, you know, it's not as expensive as you're led to believe. Like you need a fucking, you know, take a loan out or something, or have like some 6-figure salary or whatever. It's like, nah, maybe not.
And I'll just say this. Most people I've met who said they didn't want kids were just themselves, in terms of maturity and intellectually, a child themselves, and they just don't want their eternal Disneyland, all the fucking
that's also it. Yeah, you're supposed to be a consumer.
Yeah, they just want to be like, I just want the new Star Wars show. It's like, grow the fuck up. Actually grow up, mate.
That is to be the consumer now. Is the way.
It's the consumer to Kuma pipeline.
There you go. That's it. Yeah, and they're interchangeable. Richard Hag, when were you at your most nihilistic? What brought you back?
Few years ago, probably, right?
Sorry?
A few years ago, I'm guessing, for both of us. Can't be that long ago, right?
Definitely. There like that, but that wasn't nihilistic. Yeah, maybe. I think at least the first round was growing up in Los Angeles. It was fucking brutal, and then esports, and I got out of LA, met, you know, and then everything kind of changed like radically. Esports completely changed everything for me. Traveling to DreamHack, meeting everybody, doing all of that, just completely changed everything. Because before that, 100% nihilism, no meaning, no nothing, no drive, fucking just like, I don't even know what I was doing back then. It was a fucking disaster. So without esports, like, it would have been brutal. I have no idea.
Oh, no, I would just basically, okay, I won't say the exact year, but it was basically when I used to work in esports, but not on camera. And I was just a guy who all day long did loads of work. And I thought I did my dream job. I didn't really. Like at the time, I did do a lot of shit stuff that would never be your dream, like enter results by hand or, yeah, I could do an interview with someone. Then I had to write a bunch of fucking shit news posts that are a rework of what someone else wrote. And when I was doing all that, and I was just sitting in my room and all I had was like movies I downloaded by legal means, possibly, in a video game Minecraft, and then also like things like music that you're listening to, also acquired through means legal Minecraft, and then also, you know, fucking pornography, and that's all you had in your life. At the time, all you need to know is this is how you know it does spiritually degrade you and limit like who you are as a person. I used to think, no joke, that people like Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens, they weren't just good, mate, they had all the answers. They'd figured it all out. Everything they said was intellectual, because that's the thing. They make it so you think the only thing of value, not the most important, the only thing of value is intellect. Unless someone can explain it in a clever way with the right accent and a way with the accreditation. And I'm sure I'm sure people smarter than us know, but I used to really buy all that shit. I bought a hook, line, and sinker, mate. And there was a while where I've often said this. If I go back now and watch those classic Christopher Hitchens interviews that everyone used to watch 10, 12 years ago, the joke now is I realize I wasn't even listening. Like I was just a fanboy cheerleading all his comments. And half the time he could even say something that doesn't really make sense and didn't answer the question. And I'd just go, lol, look at this bloody religious idiot. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. He's religious. Hasn't even thought it through. And the joke is, by the way, when I go back now, sometimes I listen to the religious guy and I'm like, fuck, he has a banger point there. That's really poignant what he said. And really, Christopher Hitchens didn't listen and just in a snarky way was like, well, actually, I'm sure some shit thing that Oscar Wilde might have said. Like, oh, brilliant. Yeah, great. I guess you win then, Christopher Hitchens.
That's dude, going back and listening to those now, like Sam Harris and all that, it's just a grift.
Oh,
like those guys. It's just marketing. They're fucking used car salesmen. It's amazing. Like just all of the little tricks that they use. So if you go back and you actually listen to them now, it's 100% that you're listening to the other guy going like, well, hold on. He sounds like the trained philosopher. He sounds like the guy who's actually, you know, following the logical argument here and actually trying to say like, well, the point that you're making doesn't actually fit into your model. And like, you're taking points from different parts and trying to put them together when they don't actually work together, blah, blah, blah. And then you just have, yeah, like you say, the snarky comment or the appeal to emotion. That's also like the real one that gets thrown around so much. It's just emotion. They just appeal to emotion over and over and over and over again. And you realize like, that's not actually an argument. Like you're not actually, there's no arguments. There's nothing of value. All you're doing is like, what about this horrible sounding situation? Don't you, you know, do you have
just reply guy shit. It's Twitter reply guy shit.
You know, it's just like, holy shit. And you used to be like, that's the fascinating thing is that, you know, you used to think that these people were smart and you're just like, holy fuck. Like that means that like other people haven't made it past that point. They still think they're smart. Wow.
You like Reddit. You ever read Reddit? That's how everyone talks.
He literally admitted that he wouldn't care if like his whole platform is just fucking destroyed now, that guy. Well, you would think. I don't know. Apparently he still has fans. It's amazing. But yeah. It is what it is. Excuse me. Snake Gold. Favorite song you like to dance to and favorite song to sing along? Dance to? You're assuming that I dance.
Everyone dances to some music, surely, eventually. You know, like in a club, what if you're in a club and some music comes on, or you're at like a wedding, you want a certain song?
Yeah, but then club is like generic house music or generic club music. You know what I mean? Like you never know the song. Yeah, it's boots and cats, boots and cats, boots and cats, boots and cats. Okay. Like that's
it's not like, hey, I want to dance with somebody.
No,
I want to be
we're not doing the funk.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
We're not doing the funk. We're not doing that.
You want to know a story? Actually, I'll throw a random story out there for you. It's just an anecdote from the old days, right? And what you guys would not believe, but Semmler can confirm this, is if you ever went to esports after parties, I'm talking the Twitch heyday, by the way, they were putting on a big spread of like fucking
when they were
drinks.
Still worth going.
There was proper like dance floor. There's big like booths everyone's in. It was like a fucking school disco, bro. You'd have couples that are at an event. They would dance on the dance floor. Women would gather in circles, just like in a club, put all their purses in the middle and dance around like with each other. The men, all these top pros, guys, by the way, were like supermodel looks, really famous, like people would want, they'd all sit like a nervous schoolboys at the school disco, like looking, no, oh, look at this loser. Oh, I would never do that. Oh, look at her over there. They had no. So what I did at one event like that was, this is when I was still like getting like, I was like overcoming all the like mental blocks and inhibitions you have socially. I just decided one night, I just suddenly tapped into the zone, and I've been able to do this every after party since, mate. I actually tapped into that zone of like, wait a minute. They're losers, though. They're scared. Like, they're not sat there because they're cool and they're like some mob boss. Like, I don't dance, bro. They're actually genuinely, they wish they could have the balls. So what I did was, a no joke, I went out, and because I was friends with a certain few people who were women in the space, who were just friends of mine, I actually thought, you know what? Women love it when the men won't come out, and one man will go out with them, sort of embrace it. So I just went out there, and I was even like dancing in the middle of them all. I was just going, and I decided, fuck it, just be totally uninhibited. Because what I realized was this: no matter what the snide guy over there goes, oh, look at this guy there, mate, I'm having fun. I'm just fucking letting go. And not only that, all these women are loving it, because women love your energy, by the way. It's not about how good you are at dancing. They like a guy who could just fucking let loose and just have fun, and they don't, because what the thing is, they're not judging you. They're just getting in tune with the music and enjoying it. So I was just fucking going off, just doing all fucking moves and everything. I was throwing shapes. I was doing all sorts of shit. And I was fucking tearing that shit up, bro. And it was so funny because I won't say the names, but some of the like top 20 HLTV players were just seething like, who the fuck does he think he is? It's like, I'm a motherfucker tearing this shit up for me. Now you just sit there and judge me, bitch.
Those were the best. So like, I never went to the after parties to hit the dance floor though. I always went to the after parties because that's where you talked business. That's where you talk shop. And so like the best after parties were the ones where it's like you actually had two rooms. You had the one big room where it's like, okay, there was the music and the DJ and all that. And so if you wanted to dance, you could go there. And then they had the other one where it was like the bar, and you had the bar with some tables, and the music wasn't too loud, so you could actually talk and have conversation. Because back at those Twitch after parties, man, that's what was so fun, is that you had all of the different games. Once upon a time, you go to a DreamHack after party, and it would be all the different games there.
Quake,
so
Dota, everything, yeah.
DreamHack
Starcraft.
used to be, DreamHack used to be the who's who, like the actual place you needed to be if you were doing anything in esports, because you had all of the big games there, so you had all the big pros there, you had all the big sponsors there, other TOs were showing up just to see what DreamHack was doing. So it was just so much fun to be there because you got to interact with all sorts. You had streamers, just like mainstream streamers like Soda Poppin' and shit showing up. So it's like, yeah, the after party was fun to just mingle and just like shoot the shit with a bunch of different people that you wouldn't necessarily meet, and also like get perspectives from different games. Because I see our next question is already talking about a different game that I haven't.
Here's the real answer, Semmler. Right, the one to dance to is This Charming Man by the Smiths. Anyway, you've seen it there. That's how I dance. And then secondly, the one to sing to is Rage Against the Machine, Killing in the Name of. Self-explanatory.
Killing in the Name of. Okay. The one to sing to that just immediately sprang to mind was just the Corollas Rex album from Sabaton, because it's so fucking epic.
When's that ever being played anywhere to sing to?
But it's not being played. It's not. I'm in the gym.
All right,
I'm just fucking getting into it, just like, because they're like the modern metal muse, like the modern metal bards, just fucking getting epic and shit. So I'll put some Sabaton on in the gym, and then you're just fucking like stomping around and having a good time, getting into it between sets. There you go. That's the vibe, not the public club. All right, Yasuke. ESL's position in CSGO seems to be becoming more and more like Riot every year. Is there any possible way a T1 esports can exist without eventually being molded closer to Riot? Well, Riot, like this is what we talked about earlier with ESL. We spent quite a bit of time talking about ESL's monopoly situation here in CSGO now, where they have the majority market share, and then they have Blast existing. Dude, that's just the end state. Like when you have the monopoly, you control all the income, all the base are belong to you at that point. Like all the income is yours. You get to call all the shots. You're the kingmaker. You have all the control. So it is the desired end state. No, even if somebody always says, it's like the point that you made earlier actually with Face It. It's just like you only say otherwise if you aren't sitting at that table. But if you are sitting at that table, you're fine. By
the way, I'm just going to say this, ESL. Bear in mind, the other pathetic thing about the Germans who work with ESL is the execs. They're all like bleeding heart, fucking ridiculous neo-libs. Despite that, I do notice that in actual business, where you act in the world, not just say things on Twitter, you all seem to default, Germans, to some sort of like strict hierarchical autocratic rule where you just dominate entirely and there's no...
It's weird.
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah. Where did that come from, eh? What's that in your soul? By the way, shout out to Germans. Just implied you had a soul. You remember the shit I said about Pauls way back in the day? By the way, you know what as well? I'll even tell people, just because people know the rivalry between me and Carmack, right? Remember, Carmack claimed at the time all that shit went down in 2014. He had nothing to do with writing that statement, you know, decrying me and saying like it was xenophobic. He even said like he took the decision out of his hands. He just like, you know, he didn't approve of the statements, but he just let someone else deal with it. Here's how you know I absolutely lived rent-free in this motherfucker's head. A few years later, there was like some World Cup or something, and Poland either beat England or like qualified to like the quarterfinals or something. And he just did a tweet and it just put like existential hole filled, which was referencing the line I'd said about having an existential hole. So it's like, motherfucker, I lived rent-free in your head for years until the Polish football team just did something. And then you were like, take that, Dad. And it's like, Jesus, dude.
He is just lurking
Mate.
the whole time. Like he
I
just
know.
he
I know.
I don't know what his shtick is. But
I mean, the joke is he's eventually going to become a bald fraud, and he's just had that male pattern baldness that they all do. The whole, like, mate, it's like, you know, like on a tree, you can just measure the rings. It's like every 2 years, Polish guy's hair just goes back an inch, doesn't it? Like at this point in time, if you said to a Pole, look, fuck around and I'll push your wig back, they'd be like, no, no. They wouldn't even know it was about violence. I know. Whatever. That's just some nonsense at the end of it. I know. Don't worry about it.
But yes, again, to answer your question, mate. I mean, it is just monopolies are the way to go. It's just the way. There is no they say that they don't want that, but in reality, they're all just angling to become the monopoly.
They did literally make a game called ESL Monopoly. Like,
they did and sent it to me, dude. Oli sent me a message like, "Hey, you know, can I get your address?" I'm just like, "Yeah, I don't, you know, bombs, no thanks." And and he fucking he sends me, he's like, no, here, and I give it to him. I give him my address, and I open up the box, and I was just like, touche, you know, ESL Monopoly, yeah, well played. I get it. I'm glad you sent me one. Manakino, based on your knowledge of the business side of esports and perhaps player contracts you've read, how does benching a player work? Can a team just decide to bench a player and cut pay when they want, or is it tied to the player not meeting certain deliverables? How are these clauses typically constructed?
No, because you have to understand, since it's always the team who has the leverage, in almost every scenario, it's just like they put in intentionally vague boilerplate like terms in the contract that essentially say they can do it for any reason. Like there's a famous one where they can just cut you and just say you like brought the org in to disrepute. Well, what does that even mean? They can just interpret that however they want because, spoiler, you aren't taking them to court, so it's never going to get tested. So when they invoke it, it's like, well, I guess that's how it goes. So yeah, as far as I can tell, beyond like countries not allowing you to go below a certain amount of salary and be fired, unless you have that in your rules, esports contracts let you do almost whatever the fuck you want if the org. You can cut someone for any reason. You can cut them if they're the best player if you just don't feel like it. Why not?
And I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, now I think that there must be some safeguards sometimes at some point, i.e.,
like
you know,
simple,
when they were talking about how
there.
Device was still pulling his salary even though he was on the bench, etc. There's got to be some sort of, depending on like which country you live in now. But once upon a time, I mean, dude, it was just brutally cutthroat. Like you could just get yeeted off of a team for any reason at all. And there's nothing there. I think there's certainly probably been some more protections added, but it's still very much wild west when it comes to contracts in Counter-Strike or in esports in general.
West.
All right, Dandy, who are your current and all-time Ben Simmonses of esports competitors?
Do you know what that reference is?
No, hit me.
Right, he's basically a player in esports where he was in basketball, who was like a really good up and coming player, and he's a really good like point guard at like passing the ball, but for some reason he's really bad at actually like shooting an offensive play, and also he's kind of been like a choker and a bit of a coward. And the problem is when his team sort of threw him under the bus and blamed him for losing in the playoffs, he just like threw a fit and just demanded to be traded and has like gone to another team, and now he's not that good there. So basically I think he's trying to mean that like some sort of maybe like a slightly diva-ish character who's fucking their career up or something would be, I guess, the angle he wants. Or some overrated player or something. Guessing that's the angle they mean.
Yeah, but Nico isn't overrated. He's obviously the first one you think of when you think about that sort of thing, but he's not overrated at all. He is that good. So
I mean, you could maybe do Stewie if we're doing it like modern day. He's kind of done some of that stuff at the end of his career, right? Say Stewie 2K.
Sure.
that it?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to, like, I was thinking of maybe like, dang it. No, I was thinking maybe Sunny or something like that along those lines where maybe you missed out on opportunities that you, but I don't necessarily think that may not be his call, like his fault, for example. No. All right, fair enough. Sorry, Dandy. I'm punting on this one. I don't have enough on it. All right, Calls Le Francais, last question. Favorite seasonings, toppings on steak? Well, I mean, that's pretty, like, dude, salt, pepper, that's pretty much it.
Salt on its own makes a steak like 10 times better, doesn't it?
It's just salt, basically. And that is literally pretty much it. Yeah, I take steak. So, I mean, if anything, maybe you fry it in butter. You know, you put some butter on there.
Good too.
Fry it in there with like maybe a clove of garlic and then salt, and you're good to go. Like, you don't fuck with steak. You don't need this whole steak sauce thing. It's just an abomination.
Bad steak, yeah. If it's really, like, put it so, if you have like a filet mignon, like a really nice ribeye or some wagyu, like salt's all you need, mate. Salt, yeah, it's going to be delicious. Eat the fat as well. Don't trim that off like a moron from 40 years ago. Eat the fat.
Yes, eat the fat. Eat everything. Like, the steak is it, but like that's the thing that, you know, they came up with steak sauce because it's like cheap shit meat. Then it's like, then have the steak sauce. But if you're having a nice steak, dude, don't.
I mean, here's the meme. The joke would be, he's like, "What's the best like topping?" Did he say? What did he say? There's a seasoning.
Seasonings, toppings.
I mean, to be fair, it can also be nice with, like, you know, stuff rubbed into it when you cook it as well. If he means like seasonings in that sense, like if you rub some like spices into the meat before you cook it, could also make it taste nice, I guess.
You can do that, but that's for like, you wouldn't do that. Okay, so I mean, then it's a question of like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about a game animal? Because then, yeah, you can have those kinds of like, if you're
Korean barbecue marinade's pretty good.
Sorry, go ahead.
Korean barbecue marinade.
Fuck yeah.
Dude, that marinade on the galbi.
The samjang sauce.
That's the shit too. That's pretty good.
Those are good fucking nights. Those were like, I do miss those. I like, those really are, because like, is that something you're cool with me sharing that kind of information, like the E-League days?
Oh yeah, you can say that.
Yeah, dude, because that was always,
we're never going back again, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Well, yeah, we're not going back. But like, we used to go like Duncan, Anders, Moses, like when E-League would kick off, we'd all fly in, and the first thing we would do is pretty much just all go to the Korean barbecue restaurant. And it was so good that we would even go, it was like 45 minutes away. Like, we would eat the drive all the way out to buttfuck nowhere outside of Atlanta to go to this one Korean barbecue joint that was just amazing. And then the word spread. So we do this every time, basically. We're flying in, we do this. And then the word gets out somehow. And then the players start crashing our joint. And the players start going to the same restaurant. And so then all of a sudden, it's not us escaping to our little place out in the middle of nowhere in the boonies. Now the players are showing up too. But yeah, that was the shit, man.
I'll tell you a little anecdote as an aside, because I'm a different person now, so it's okay, Sam, I can tell this story. Because back then, you know, you're all frustrated because you had jet lag and you've been traveling and having bad sleep because you're in the country. The other thing is, if they said in the group chat, like, "Oh, should we go to like the Korean barbecue tomorrow?" I would be like, "Yeah, of course." I'd be thinking about it all day. And if it got to like 4 p.m. when normally would be arranged, like, what time we're going to meet up? If someone like Moses just dropped in the group chat, like, "Nah, I think I'll have my burger at the hotel. I think I'm not going to go." I would throw my fucking temper tantrum. I would just be like, "Fuck you fucking wasted," because I was building up the whole day, bro. That delicious galbi. Oh, I would lose my shit, man. I was a little bit, when it comes to Korean barbecue, I was a diva. I'll first admit that. I was Nico in that scenario. I was like, "Shut up."
Dude, we even got to do that at the Major recently, or when we were in Romania, we even found a Korean barbecue joint. I mean, come on, it's the thing. All right, well, I mean, dude, that's a show. That's it for the week. Big shout out to everybody who's been tuning in. Awesome. And also to everybody who's been leaving reviews and comments. That's super sick to see. Make sure that you leave some comments below on the YouTube or wherever you happen to be leaving, and or wherever you happen to be watching or listening. That's the thing. Spotify, iTunes, we're there too. Just leave a rating, leave a comment. It definitely helps with the algo gods. The algo gods require their sacrifices. And Thorin, thanks once again for another great show, and we'll be back next week, guys. VOD should be back and should be out in about 24 hours. If you missed the beginning of the show, VOD will be going out in about 24 hours on the YouTube. And we'll see you guys next time.
Chris is still in the picture. Oh, I'm still very much in the round. Oh, Chris, he's found 3. It's down to a 2-on-2. Chris, can he close this with an ace? Oh my God!
He gives him a chance at least, and this